This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 517 for the week of Monday, April 30th, 2018. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And my name is Steve.
And if you skip weeks where there's no manga chapter, you have made the wrong decision this week because we have, as always, very special guest translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump. We have Stephen Paul with us. How's it going, Stephen?
That's right. I'm here this week. This is what you signed up for.
And Steven, you're going to be going through Color Walk 8 Wolf with us in just a few minutes, so we're excited to do that. That's an hour-plus conversation about the Color Walk with some really cool insights and stuff and some of Oda's comments. We also have a triple anime recap this week, and that means returning, we have Sam Leach. How's it going, Sam?
Hey! Almost running out of... No, I wasn't close to running out of breath, but whatever.
How's it going, Sam?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Right.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been a few weeks. And we're going to discuss Whole Cake Island and all of our opinions about Whole Cake Island in a nice, loose, and fun discussion. So that means we had to have the man from Japan, Greg. How's it going, Greg?
So I'm going to be totally honest. I had no idea that Sam was in this chat whatsoever. So he just emerged from the ether of the internet and scared the Jesus out of me.
Wow.
Good to see you, Sam. Good to see you.
You too.
He sidled his way into this chat somehow.
Good to be here, Zach. Thanks.
Yeah, Greg, it's been a little while. It's great to have you back. What have you been up to?
A little bit of writing. Been actually really busy with One Piece stuff these past couple of weeks. I've been going back and forth between Tokyo a lot, working on a lot of things that I can't discuss publicly yet, but you should definitely be hyped for. Around the time you start getting your Halloween costumes in line, definitely be prepared for some awesome stuff. Maybe even a little bit before that, but a lot.
In America, you get your Halloween costumes together now, I believe, sometime in August. So,
it's okay. Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, it was like a year before I got back from trick-or-treating, and you came in the door and you're like, all right, next year I'm Indiana Jones. And that was it. But yeah, nobody laughed. Nobody did this as a kid. Really? Okay. All right. I guess I'm biggest nerd in the world. Okay. Yeah. Some exciting things going on over at the column. One Piece Super Court. I don't even know what it's called in English. Sorry.
It's one-piece.com/special/Greg. It's a nice, easy to remember address.
That's the address. I write a column over there. We went from column 99 to column 101, and we've skipped column 100. Why have we skipped column 100? Because we're doing something special, and it takes a long time to get ready. So look forward to that. That's what's going on, Zach.
Thank you, Greg. As we said, Greg is here. We're going to talk a little bit of Whole Cake Island. Hopefully we'll have him on. Transition chapters are notably pretty huge chapters, so hopefully we'll have you on for some of those coming up in the next few weeks. But who knows? Schedules are tough. So again, today we have our Color Walk 8 triple anime recap, Whole Cake Island recap. Next week we're back with our recap of chapter 903. There's a lot to talk about with chapter 903, and that's mainly that it is not out officially in English yet, but it is out officially in Japanese, which puts us...
a day or so.
Oh, on
I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday? Yeah.
But Greg could probably tell you some newsstands kind of sometimes put those out early, so I think it's out somewhat officially, I don't know, I guess unofficially in some places. So it puts us in a kind of awkward position that you may see things on the internet, and we're here to tell you we're not going to be talking about any of those things on this episode.
So if you're not looking for spoilers, rest assured we will not talk about chapter 903 at all for the rest of this episode.
And if you are looking for spoilers, don't worry, there's still a ton of really great One Piece discussion on this episode with some of our favorite guests on this show. And there's a lot to go back and comb through anyway with Whole Cake Island, Color Walk Wolf, and the anime, which has been, covering some of my favorite material from the Whole Cake Island arc. Yeah, Ed.
It's heating up.
It is heating up. Somewhat literally. No, well, I guess we're not up to that part yet. So why don't we get into the show? Actually, before we get into the show, patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. Please support us there. New stuff, exclusive outtakes. You guys know the drill. I say this every week. At this point, you just support us, please. You help us run and keep running and do awesome things like bringing Greg. So why don't we get the show started?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
The following segment contains images, so every time you hear this noise, a new image will pop up on your podcast feed or on YouTube or however you are enjoying this episode. If your podcatcher or podcast device does not support this feature, please check us out at youtube.com/One Piece Podcast, where you could see the images along with us. And please pick up Color Walk 8 Wolf if you haven't to follow along. So, without further ado, let's begin. This is the recap of Color Walk 8 Wolf. And Stephen, you want to give us a little bit of background on this special Color Walk, Color Spread extravaganza?
Well, it is the 8th Color Walk, as you said. It is titled Wolf. It's from the One Piece series by Eiichiro Oda. And yeah, this
Are
came
you
out
stalling
in,
for time, Stephen?
No, this came out in early March. And
what's it about?
This covers all of the material, basically from the start to the end of Dressrosa. You can always tell what it covers because in the attribution page at the end, it will mention where everything came from, and then you can see like, okay, the first volume cover illustration in this volume of Color Walk is volume 71, which is right at the start of Dressrosa. And the last of them is, let's see here, 70, no, that's after 77, 80, 81. That's about right. So yeah, the first one from Zoe.
Roughly 2013 to 2016.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is divided up by years. And so yeah, this basically covers all of Dressrosa and a little bit of Zoe. And we also have some bonus stuff because there's a lot of art from the Kabuki Theater, some promotional art that Oda did. And yeah, that's what you get with these books. They're always, you get all the color art that he did for volume covers, for color spreads, for the covers of Jump, and
events,
and events, little bonus promotional things. And then at the end, there's always a cross interview between Oda and some other artist or person who he wanted to talk to. In this case, it is the artist and illustrator Katsuya Terada, who is, for promotional purposes, he is the guy who drew the color illustration or the cover illustration for the Ace novel, which was also printed in the first volume of the One Piece magazine last year. So that's where they kind of met up. And so we'll go a little bit in detail about that interview as well. So I guess we'll start with talking about the cover here, in which men are becoming, or boys are becoming men becoming wolves.
That's
this is
the perfect reference for this. I love you so much.
It's a rocking werewolf time.
No, it's so the real title of this is Werewolf Bar Mitzvah. Spooky, scary.
Yep.
Yes.
Scary. No, so the guys are on the front, and the ladies and Brooke and Frankie are on the back. This is one of the more, I think, laid back covers for the Color Walk series, I want to say. There's a lot of background.
Eyes on those wolves, especially the one in the back here.
Yeah, they're kind of creepy.
These covers are starting to get way more laid back. Because I remember Tyrannosaurus, I was like, oh, what interesting setup is he gonna do? Like, what kind of crazy action sequence? And they're all getting haircuts.
Yeah. And here that's like they're literally like, oh, we're just gonna hang out, we're gonna sit in the snow for a little while. Frankie is literally sleeping on top of the wolf. They're just sipping tea.
If I remember anything, if you're ever feeling like not drawing an environment, draw it in snow.
Yep.
Anyone else notice that the wolf has heart eyes, the one that Frankie's sleeping on?
Yeah, it kind of does. just from the.
I think it's because it's a female wolf. They're trying to show that it's.
Oh yeah, females like love.
Yes, romance has come to One Piece.
No, I think the female wolf is lurking after the male wolf, maybe in the front page. I don't know what's going on there. I'll let our readers, and by readers I mean listeners, decide.
I think it's just the eyelids are covering the eye, but it's just a coincidence. But I don't know if that's as interesting as what we just came up with.
Yeah. So yeah, not the most exciting cover, but it is kind of nice. I guess it's a nice counterpoint to
sorry,
the older
Stephen,
ones.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Though I did. Isn't that little duck in several of these? Or
yeah, I think he draws something like that on all of the color walk covers, because he actually signs the drawings, which is another interesting feature of the color walk covers. Because he doesn't do that with his usual stuff. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers this one, pun intended. And there's always also underneath the dust cover flaps, there is always you call it a map because it looks like a map, but they're not really maps. It's just like, here's some little kind of digital illustrations of representing the locales that you saw in the material covered. And so you have a little thing of Dressrosa, which I think may have also been on on Color Walk 7, because it started right around the start of Dressrosa. And then there's just a huge drawing of Zoe, which is pretty cool. I like the clouds around it.
It's like a map you get at a diner. It's not necessarily accurate, but
yeah, you don't need to use the crayons on this one either. It's all colored in already. So there you go. That tells you what you're going to be seeing in this volume of Color Walk 8. And let's get into it. It starts in 2013, and I guess so the format of these books is always you flip through a couple spreads and a few illustrations, and then there will be a page where Oda provides a little witty comment on one of the pieces, talking about like the thought process behind it, or how they came up with the idea. So otherwise, I think we're just going to kind of go, oh yeah, here's this one, here's that one. We start with the We Can Live How We Want, which is the cover with the grown up and childhood straw hats with their numbers and everything. This is one of my favorites, I think, for sure.
I think after Film Z, this was the first time we saw Child Brook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like outside of like SBS stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was ever revealed in SBS. I feel like Film Z was the first time we saw him as a kid. I remember that being something special. And that was 2012, and this is 2013. So
yeah. Oda has a comment about this one a little later on, so we'll hear what he thinks. After that, there's the Overdrive One Piece, which is the on the rainbow, swings in front of the rainbow.
Swings from nowhere.
Yeah, swings from nowhere. He didn't want to draw a background in this one, I guess.
Yeah, I don't recognize this next one with the cherry blossom petals.
Yeah, so this is why I have my finger in the attributions page at the back, so I can flip back. This was the cover of Jump number 18 for 2013. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because usually I don't think he draws backgrounds for them. Usually it's just a picture of Luffy, or specifically it's an individual cut because they're getting them from all the artists of Jump, and they're going to put them all together. But this one is clearly a full piece. He's looking at the sakura blossoms falling
from nowhere.
Yep, from nowhere again. Then we have the volume 71 cover, where all the Coliseum guys are there.
It's Happy Store, my favorite. I forgot about him.
Yep, Mr. Happy.
See, you guys, you can't have a tournament arc without having an illustration of all the characters in boxes.
Yeah, making a bunch of silly faces.
It's the quintessential tournament cover.
Mm-hmm. Following that, we have the Sharks send an SOS to the world.
I thought this was older than it
This
was.
came out. It's
Yeah.
older than you think. This came out right before I took the bar exam because I remember sending my message in a bottle out, and then going to take the exam and then doing OPP Japan. So this was early 2013. It's weird to think of the moments in my life when these color spreads came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to think like in the in One Piece, this is like a quarter of One Piece, but this is more than half of our podcast ago. Like we were only podcasting for 4 years at this point.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, who won the wet T-shirt contest?
Dragon Ball, apparently. Yeah. The next one after that is I really love this one. This is another Jump illustration. Let's see. That's issue 28 from 2013 of the Teru Teru Bozu, which is the little weather ghosts that you put up to keep the rain away. And I just love how adorable Luffy and Chopper's crappy faces are that they drew on these guys. God, they're so cute.
This actually reminds me a lot of the one with the Straw Hats are ice cream scoops.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like put them all like, or like the the gingerbread cookies from last week, where it's like put all of these Straw Hats in this sort of thematic little super deformed version, and including the color scheme around the hem of their little tissues. It's really adorable. And then another volume cover with all the Tintadas.
I never noticed Usopp is actually holding the Nolan statue.
Yeah, I just realized that. Too.
I think it's probably because there was stuff over it, or I'm not sure. But
he's totally like posing in front of his webcam.
Yeah, that's his his YouTube channel icon.
Check out what just arrived in the mail. Unboxing video. I've always liked this cover. I just think the characters are drawn really well. Lots of great colors, a lot of green and yellows, and I do enjoy a lot of the designs. Like I remember Toy Soldiers or Ikaros. Not Ikaros. What was his name? Was it Ikaros?
No, that's Fishman Island.
Ikaros was
Flapper. Don't forget about Flapper.
Flapper's there. No, Kyros there.
No. It was Kyrios. I believe the cereal brand.
I was trying to think of the cereal first, and then come back. But case in point, I like this cover.
Yeah. Next after that is the spread with the everybody hanging out in the hot tub on top of the Mecha Chopper. I can't my personal chronology of when I think about these is completely thrown off because half of these spreads were calendar pages. They get reused in a year or two after that. So
yeah, this is the second color walk where I own probably just about everything in here because it's in a calendar. Well, actually, not all of them are in a calendar, but a lot of them, like 2/3 of them, probably are. I like how what is it? Oh, Kinemon is clearly wearing a Fundoshi bathing suit.
Yeah.
This was the one that came out while I was in Japan. I remember. So it's cool. Again, if anyone cares about where I am at certain times.
I also want to reiterate what Ed and Steven were saying. Since I started buying the Color Walk calendars, these Color Walks don't really hit me as much anymore because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, I'll get this in July. But Robin's infamous watermelon bikini top, I feel like that's been reoccurring. I feel like I saw it in another spread or figures or something, but classy.
Next we go on to, now here's a little comment. So this is what I mentioned before. Oda's comment on the adult and childhood Straw Hats, and his comment here is that my manga editor at the time, Osugi, which I guess is Sugita, asked me to draw a piece of art like this, so that's why I did it. And as I was drawing it, I was getting the feels. I was realizing, wow, look how far we've come. So yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate statement to how people thought when they.
Well, there's one thing I want to ask you about too. First of all, the illustration with all the straw hats and these geometric shapes celebrating something 3. I have a bunch of these on postcards, but I forget what this is celebrating.
That is the 300 million copies celebration.
Which, since we've gone past 400 million, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
I think
so
in the time of
at
this
the
book.
time.
Yeah.
Right. So this was for a, OPJ 47 Cruise bookstore fair. So it's just basically a promotional illustration for bookstores that were celebrating the big 300.
And the reason you and I have them, Steve, is because we went to Kino and asked them for as many as they could give us. So I still have like 10 or 15 of these in my drawer.
I have some of them hanging up. But
on the reverse side, it's like famous 2-page spreads from the series up to that point.
Also, I am not familiar with this Christmas comic.
Yeah. So this was another like sort of jump bonus thing. This was for combined issue 4 and 5 for 2014. So this would have been in like December 2013, part of a Jump Stars Christmas little bonus giveaway thing. And so we have Santa Buggy here and Moji and Kabaji, his reindeers. And like so Buggy's brilliant plan here. He's like, all right, so after Santa goes in and drops off the presents, we're just gonna follow behind him and just scoop them all up. And Moji's like, yeah, way to go, Captain, brilliant plan. And so then you see Buggy literally stealing the presents from these children's stockings along their beds. And then outside you hear someone shouting, thief, give back my chicken and my cake. And Bucky's like, what? I didn't touch any food. And then you see that there is a Luffy Santa with a Chopper reindeer as well in the sleigh. And Luffy's all fat. He's got a bone sticking out of his mouth, and Chopper's chewing on some cake too. So there you go. There's 2 sets of thieving Santas following the real one around.
Luffy is no hero.
No, he's a pirate. He steals stuff. We steal from the kids and give to ourselves.
Now, using my powers of memory, is this next one from Oban? Is that what this was celebrating?
Let's see. This would be another jump. Yeah, this was 37 and 38. So this would have been another. That would be later in the year. I think you're right. That's late. That's like August.
It's supposed to have been when I was there, because I was there for Oban.
Yeah.
I'm just putting
so
things
2013.
Together.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the cover of Jump. And he's got the festival yukata on, and the fan, and the grilled corn, and the fireworks. It's all the summer festival stuff. And following that, we have this is one of our, I think, podcast favorites, the Mermaid Cafe bar scene with all the mermaids and the crew, very neon. Yeah.
This was my desktop for many years. Surprisingly, it isn't that much of a mess when you have it as a desktop wallpaper. It works really well. I like this one. It's weird because this one came late. Long after Fishman Island had wrapped.
Yeah, but can really see the use of watercolors. It looks like especially on the coral and some of those fish.
Since Jinbei's in this, does that mean he's officially on the crew now?
So are all these mermaids and the bar
DJ spinning tracks at the bar.
This would be a pretty fun series.
And the bartender who looks like a Phantom Menace alien.
Yep. Yeah, you can make multiple cocktails at once. It's very.
I wonder which Blackbeard pirate he's going to fight.
Following that, we have some more. Let's see, Jump illustrations. There's a couple of these Luffy and Doflamingo, looking menacing pieces here. A lot of them got reused for like the inside cover on the volumes, where at the title page. Another Luffy celebrating 300 million. I'm assuming because he's doing the 3. Let's see.
It's tribute to Sonic the Hedgehog.
This next one, I have one last OPP Japan anecdote for, and that is that I saw when we were at Shueisha, we saw them putting together this color spread.
So this is the decorated one.
Yeah, which is a confusing.
Yeah,
it was. Okay. I think it was for Jump. I forget. Yeah, I forget.
So the characters on this, obviously drawn by Oda, and that was for another Jump cover issue or promotional thing. But all the other stuff, as you can tell if you get the book and you look at it, it's clearly a photograph or a scan. It's not like a direct digital image. It's you can tell that there's physical decorations on it. There's like sequins and like cutout cardboard type stuff. And so Oda's comment on the next page is that this was an artist collaboration with someone named Asami Kiyokawa, who does art by basically putting decorations on top of photography. So in other words, I had her make the Straw Hat Crew all fancy like. There's a
That's
sense
the New York
of,
City skyline there. That's the Empire State Building.
There's a feminine touch to this that I personally could never replicate. So it really sticks out when you see it in contrast to all the other the color spreads. It's like, whoa, this is different.
It also appears to be the CN Tower behind Usopp there.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of famous skylines.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And yeah, we have some other little illustrations on this kind of in between page.
I've never seen these before.
So the one on page 27 here is kind of neat. It's a single page color illustration, and you see all these straw hats, but not Luffy, and they're all looking straight at the viewer. And this one is for let's see, where does it say? The Jump Next 2013 spring issue. So it's not Shonen Jump. It is a side magazine, a special issue. And I'm going to flip ahead here to get the comment from Oda. This was a cover for a Jump seasonal special issue. My personal policy is that I will never allow Luffy to be on the cover of any manga magazine aside from Weekly Jump itself. That's just my thing. I don't want him appearing on any other manga related magazines. So when I told,
I was going to say he's been on everything else.
Yeah, everything else. Yeah, promotional stuff, that's fine, but manga, no. And so when my editor found out about this, he said, okay, well then draw everyone aside from Luffy. And it was like, hey, that's cheating. You can't. Oh, okay, fine. All right. So instead he drew everyone from Luffy's perspective. So even though he's not in the picture, you can kind of feel his presence here, because this is what he sees when he looks at the rest of the crew.
And the next page here. Oh, sorry. So go ahead, Steve.
I think we all want a shirt that says "Cutie in Inferno."
Great.
I want to talk about the beach photos too. Are those from the same magazine, or
that is from Jump Live? Okay, so that's the online thing. Jump Live, Doki Natsu no Anoko no Sexy Mizugi. So that is the bump, like heartbeat.
Yeah.
That girl's summer sexy swimsuit thing. So he drew Nami and then he drew Brooke with his sexy inner tube there.
Do not undersell Frankie.
And Frankie.
His number 8 Speedo.
Yeah.
Lovely.
That's great. I like on the bottom one too that like Luffy and Chopper are just watching Frankie swim out in the ocean. It's great. So after this, we have the Yi-R One Piece, the Kung Fu movie one.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. This ended up in a calendar earlier than the Straw Hat, the Fishman Island neon one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, interesting.
I realize that this book has my 2 favorite color spreads, and this is my number 2.
The other one's at the very end.
Yeah.
I know which one, Zach.
Yeah. And Oda's comment later on in the book is for this one. He says, when I was a kid, Kung Fu movies were all the rage. So if I had to put a story to this, this color spread here, I would say that probably either Zoro or Sanji got killed by the evil Frankie army. And so now we have to learn new Kempo from Grandpa Usopp. and seek revenge with our new super technique, the Fire Dragon Kick. So
totally not a ripoff of DBZ movie 13. Not at all.
So Brooke, Robin, and Frankie are the bad guys.
Enter the Dragon. But,
yeah. I love the hell out of this. Now I love it. I love it more even now that it has kind of a backstory to it.
Yeah. Now that apparently the shots of Zoro and Sanji are posthumous up in the corner. That's the memory of them.
Them and their giant panda that they had fight with them.
Yeah.
Grandpa Usopp.
Color.
It was probably Sanji
that got
killed because you just have to sick Robin on him.
Yeah. Good stuff. And that is it for 2013, because next page we are told this is now 2014. And we start with another cover. This one is 73 with Law and Doflamingo and Lucy behind bars in the back. So yeah, I think this is probably like this is the last place that we saw the twirly hat crew before they took off for Zoe, probably. Yeah. And after that we have the One Piece snowman or snow woman, because Sanji is helpfully rolling up some titties for that snow lady. This is a cute one. I like
birthday.
I like it whenever Oda, you can tell whenever he does like the cutesy style, because they're shorter, their proportions are shorter than normal.
His arms are really short.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think this is more of a standard one. Not a lot of special memories there. Following that, another Luffy and Doflamingo one with some digital strings thrown in there to distinguish them. That was another Jump cover, I think. And then we have volume 74 with Sugar on the front and Treble and Senior Pink, all your favorites from.
It really is. Yeah, that's amazing. Pink is down there too, looking up Viola's skirt.
He's glooping and glorping, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Followed by the army fatigues one. So yeah, lots of great. Like, hey, let's see, we have Boys Will Be Boys on Frankie's arm there. The little tank says,
"It takes two to a quarrel."
It takes two to a quarry, to make a quarry.
You think they'd correct this by the time it gets into the color wall.
And the best part too is that the contraction on its is between the I and the T, so it says ites. I'm giving him a hard time. And then all's well that ends welt on the tank.
Look, you can't argue with that. It's true.
Yeah. Well, that's about what a bullet does in the world of One Piece. It just gives you a welt. But yeah, I like this one. There's a lot. You could tell he did a lot of coloring on this. There's all the green shades of green on the fatigues are great. It's just such a packed cover.
It's probably more challenging than drawing with multiple colors.
To
get the different shades of just one.
All the shades, yeah. And on the next page we have that was the author comment about the non-Luffy cover, and then we have this great. One of these promotional things. This one was for the Crossing Japan OPJ 47 cruise locational T-shirt. So this is a Miyazaki prefecture thing, and I believe Miyazaki is like in Kyushu. It's one of the more southern parts of Japan, and the Hyotoko is kind of the famous, like, sort of iconic mask sort of thing with the you can see the guy with the bandana over his head on the O for One Piece is the traditional looking Hyotoko, and so Oda just drew all of the Straw Hats making that face, except for Robin, who looks like she has more of a, I don't know what that is, but
Robin's like, oh no.
I don't participate in this kind of thing.
Yeah. Nami will, though.
I just opened up to doing shock faces.
Yeah. Just we'll get her there. We'll get her there. So yeah, that's a pretty hilarious.
She actually does more fault faces than shock faces, even. I guess they're pretty similar. Anyway, what's next?
Next is the cover of volume 75, I think. This is the first Birdcage. Oh boy, it's only going to take another 4 volumes to get through that one. With Kyros and Fujitora and Pika and lots of good stuff there. The next spread is cleaning the deck of the Sunny. Gotta love Frankie with his bold, rainbow palm tree shirt that just says "out" on it. Live your best life, Frankie.
Yeah.
Good for you, Frankie.
Yeah. I feel positive that I must have made a Schlitz gay reference when we first saw this.
I 100%.
I believe it's Schmitz gay. Schlitz is a real beer.
This is the actual beer. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I found that SNL sketch, and I think in reruns they had to replace because originally they had "Beautiful Girls" by Van Halen playing, so it's just random rock music. I'm like, that song was like a quarter of the joke right there. It's too bad.
Is this confirmation?
That's real turbulent juice.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, let's just move on.
Next is the One Piece "Beware of the Bear." No, "Beware of the Pirates." Catching fish with the bears in the river, and this is a great one.
I like Frankie's hair and his shirt.
Yeah,
this is the most Pacific Northwest color spread we will ever have.
Most Canadian color spread.
Yeah. That part of Canada, sure.
Anyway,
yeah.
I do like Frankie and the bear becoming pals.
Yeah, they're pals. I really like it's just like the background kind of behind Chopper. I really like the real soft colors with the sunlight coming through the trees. The way that he drew that, this is just a really good looking spread.
I didn't realize it's really the pirates and the bears working together to eat the salmon. It's not it's not the way you think.
Both. Yeah.
Even though they're all wearing shirts that say "Beware of the Bears."
There's even a ripped up warning sign below.
Oh yeah.
Near Robin, it says "Caution."
Although Brooke is wearing one that says "Bear Hug," so.
Yeah. On the following page, we have this was the Oda's comment about the Kung Fu spread, and then we have 2 pieces that were done for the cover of Jump. One of them, I think Kodomo, that must be. I think that was the one where Luffy was the the kindergarten teacher, and all the other Jump things were kids. Do you remember that one? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, I believe that's where we coined the very famous running joke, Steve. Do you remember? No? Steve, you don't remember Nisekoi from Nisekoi?
Was that it?
I think it was in that color spread.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was ever made to my attention that Luffy's supposed to be a kindergartner teacher, because I'd love to see the One Piece version of Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. He just like blows up his skin like a balloon. He says, "It's not a tumor. It's just rubber." And then the other one is Karuta, where he's got the card, and the hiragana there is ni, and that's for Niku or meat. So that's why Luffy picked that one, of course. And following that, we have the illustration for cover. Let's see, volume 76, I believe, with the colorful spiral that comes down. This is one of my favorite covers, but it looks really bare when you don't have the background, like the actual One Piece map background behind it,
or the logo.
Yeah, it's just white.
And now we could also shoot down a theory that I believe Greg had. He thought that this was through Viola's point of view, and when she uses her ability, I forget what it was called.
The eagle eye stuff.
Yeah, that it was kind of like rainbow hued, but that was not the case. Sorry, Greg. You're not always right.
Next. Next is the Just Being Me. This was the previous character poll, which is now no longer the most recent, where we had all of the top 10. It was Luffy it was just the top 10.
Yes.
The more recent one was a little more tricky. But on the carriage.
Love the font he uses on the design for the logo.
Yeah.
Please raise your hand if you thought that Hancock was Robin.
Shut up.
Robin's got a little flatter nose that's about it. All I can usually tell.
Her nose is a lot less defined these days. I miss her old nose before she got the rhinoplasty.
Yeah, she had some work done during the
Can we go to the next page, because this is my favorite Luffy ever?
Which one? There's so many good ones here.
Luffy eating. Okay, let me see. 48. Yeah, there's a bunch of illustrations here. So this is issue number 4 and 5 for 2015. So this would be December 2014. I'm not sure what the theme is here. Because we're not even at Whole Cake Island yet. So
stuff your face with random unidentifiable food.
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure what that is.
Eat now, ask later.
Yeah, and then of course on the next page we at least I can tell the theme on this one, which is Vampire Luffy and Chopper with their goblets of blood.
I will remember us covering that on the podcast because Alex did his Vincent Price impression.
Yeah,
this is how he dresses to the bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
What?
Following that, we have the 17th anniversary One Piece spread, which has all of the Straw Hats in their changing room, looking in the mirror, checking out their fancy duds.
Yeah, before they go to set on the manga, this is what they do.
Yep. They're powdering up. This is another favorite of mine. I love it when he can kind of separate each of these Straw Hats and then kind of put them all into a theme where you can really see the difference of how they're acting. This one, it's real cute. Following that, we have this is the Kurita Coliseum spread where it's just the combatants and
you can
Zoro.
tell because they're in geometric shapes.
Yeah, the guys in the background for sure. Many of whom are now Grand Fleet guys, and and then Zoro and Law are there as well, just for kicks. And he does have a comment on this one. Let me find it. So this was the spread that he was working on this while he was taking the break for his tonsil removal or whatever it was. Surgery. And so he was doing this while he was in the hospital. And he said the lights of the hospital room were different. The shade was different than in my workplace. So you can tell that the color of their skin is a little bit different than usual because the lighting was different. And he says it had been a very long time since I had taken so much time, just taken my time working on a single drawing. So
he worked in the hospital.
Yep. You can't stop him. He's just going to do what he's going to do.
He's a freight train that you can't stop.
Mr. No Days Off.
Yep, the bus that couldn't slow down.
Where's Keanu Reeves when you need him, by the way?
Next page, I want to see what the rest of that tattoo says.
Yeah, give me what? This is the Universal Studios collaboration original character Chameleone. This is as it says here, 2012.
Sit boy.
And his little note here is that as you can see the underside, he's got this fabulous Technicolor dream coat here, and on the and on the underside there's like some skull logos, and Oda's little comment here is like, I wonder maybe he holds his coat open to show off the Jolly Rogers on the underside to brag. So I'm guessing maybe he's supposed to have stitched this out of the flags of crews that this guy has beaten or something.
Yeah,
it's a fun design. I really like his symbol on the back. It's a shame this is the only like concept art we get in this color walk.
Yeah, that's true. There is no concept art stage. They gave some of that for the One Piece magazine, so I guess maybe he was kind of running short on hidden stuff to show off. But yeah, this guy is definitely of the Doflamingo mold, I feel like.
And he's got double iron cheek shoes.
Yep. And next we have a color spread. Now let me see where this came from, because I don't actually remember this. This was the Tokyo One. Yes, the Tokyo One Piece Tower unveiling visual poster. So that's why you got the tower in the background and it doesn't say One Piece on it. It's just
Frankie has the hair. That's the dead giveaway right there. And the tower in the background.
Yeah.
And the transponder snail also has a tower shell.
And the rare One Piece underboob.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, yep, can't forget Nami underboob.
Nami don't wear no bra.
It's not in this one.
I love the perspective on this in the foreshortening. And I know we've ragged on about some other color spreads in recent memory, but this one I think works a lot better. Like pretty much if you follow Brooke, just like the foreshortening there is really good. And it's nice. And I think this one you could tell for sure he had a lot more time on this one. And it looks great.
Kind of rare, I think, to have Brooke be like so up front and center on a spread like that. He's rarely the front guy.
And I think some of the background characters are definitely wearing some merchandise, because there's one pirate in a straw hat, a couple pirates in chopper hats.
They're trying to indicate that you could also get that merchandise at the One Piece Tokyo Tower, which is still open and apparently like the best One Piece exhibit.
But tell me that this woman below Luffy and below the captain that's below him does not look like Big Mom.
Oh, man. Yeah, she really does. Yeah.
She was there the whole time.
There's no way to transition. The picture indicating 2015 is one of my favorite Luffy pictures, in that do you guys remember who he was sitting next to making that blank
I do remember, because I think this is one of the funniest things Steven has ever said on the podcast.
Steven, do you remember what you said?
Is this is the Boruto? My son is also named Boruto.
Yeah.
It's so incomplete, because Luffy's looking directly at Boruto. And
I think he was behind him. He's
behind him, looking directly at him, and he just has this face of, I have no idea who this person is.
Can someone read? Stephen, can you read the where this is from, so people can go look at that?
Yeah. So let's see. This is page 58. This is the issue 22 and 23 of 2015. So. Yeah, this would be the Golden Week issue from 2015.
You never see Luffy with like a blank stare, like, please help me. But that's, you could see it in his eyes there. He's like, why am I here right now?
Amazing.
And that is totally dental plan. Lisa needs braces.
Yeah, yep. He's thinking about two things, whatever they are.
I'm hungry.
So this is the next one's what volume number?
This is 76, I believe.
Okay, so this is the Doflamingo family cover. Yep. And so, Steve, since Jammer's not here, I have a quiz for you. Please name...
77.
77.
Yeah. This is companion with 78. I was just looking at the spine.
Please name every character on this cover.
Bitch, please. Diamante, Doflamingo, Treble, Pika, Buffalo, Jola, or Jorah. I forget what we used. Dallinger, Lao G, Senor Pink, not Baby Pink or Mr. Baby.
And here's the real test.
Oh, it's Mr. Anime.
Yeah. Do you remember his real name?
Holy crap. I'm kind of skipping on it real quick, but I'll get back to him. Sugar, Baby 5.
I remember. It's just remember at the very end there.
No, it's because he's the Dusty.
Were we assuming you couldn't remember?
I could not remember until Steve forgot.
Yeah, these are the last two I'm stuck on. It's been a while.
So
it's weird because I listened to that episode and Mr. Anime, what is your name?
I never get to do quizzes, so I'll answer these.
I'm close.
Gladius and Mock Vice. I'm right,
okay,
right?
Yeah, I was actually stumped on those last two.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
This next page, I remember this color spread so well.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Around 325.
I remember the original one.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the new blank stare, and this time it comes from Usopp.
Yeah, this is the infamous one where Oda forgot to draw the center bar between Usopp's front wheel and the seat, the rest of the chassis of the bicycle. So he was literally just holding up the rear of the bicycle with Nami and Robin with his core muscles alone.
He was leaning on Chopper's unicycle.
Yeah,
for stability.
Yeah, looking for adventure and whatever comes.
Yeah. Love it. It's always great when you can see it's like, oh, this is an America cover, just for Oda's kind of crazy perception of.
I think it's supposed to be inspired by Easy Rider because that's it's a line from Born to Be Wild.
Yeah, right. The next one's also pretty American in my point of view.
Well, before we go further, just looking through these, I've noticed Frankie has been drawn a lot with his pompadour. And yeah, I wonder if you got any second thoughts, Oda.
Not the next one though.
No, on the next one it is the Pirate Festival, aka Pizza Party, and
advertising for Tokyo Tower again.
Yep. They're all thinking about going, and eating pizza. This is not the most egregious pizza foul that Oda has drawn. I think that one goes to the Doflamingo family.
This one looks like a pretty okay pizza. I'm trying to see what's on there. There's definitely mushrooms.
Yeah. It actually looks like a thick crust, like frozen that you would buy.
It looks like Sanji obviously made it.
I feel pretty okay with stating that this is probably stuffed crust as well.
Probably, yeah.
It's not Sanji.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see the cheese.
It's not Sanji.
I got a quiz for you, Zach.
Oh no. Yes.
On the second episode titled "Stabbed Through the Heart," what was the original title that was much, much better that you did not pick?
Like Doflamingo's Pizza Party or something? I remember it had to do with pizza. I just don't remember what it was actually called.
It was Pizza Foul.
Oh, okay.
I think I remember we were logging off of Skype and we're like, great pizza. It's like Pizza Foul. That sounds lovely. And then I check and see it's called Stabbed Through the Heart. And I felt like
since then, all of our episodes have been stabbed through the heart. I think we've had at least 5 or 6 takes on that at this point.
The next is we have the volume 78 cover, which is of course the counterpart. Now who's going to name Zach? Are you going to name all of the Tentadas here?
Yeah.
Is that? Wait, you guys are giving. Okay, I never get to do quizzes, so I guess. Okay, we got Manchuri, and you have to say it like you're from New York. I know that.
Manchuri.
It's Manchuri. Leo. Let's see how far I get. I know the Eric Hartman sounding one is the one after the one I can't think of the name of. Cub is the one on the right. Next to Manchuri.
Well, that's the Eric Hartman.
No, that's the one that followed Zoro all the way on the right. What the hell is her name? And the rest I don't care about. I know the one on the
Biffer and Bofer and Bomber and Nori and Nori.
The one on the left is the one with the B and the B squad. I kind of remember the context of each of these. I just don't remember.
Yeah,
isn't
her name is Beyond?
That was
Beyond. Yeah,
and it's the one with Zoro is Wicca.
Wicca. I did know that one.
No Flapper.
No Flapper. They forgot about Flapper.
Yeah. Anyway,
how many times can we make that joke in this podcast?
Because it's the only thing going for Flapper.
I feel for Flapper more than any other Tontada.
I could just hear Michael Scott in the office going, "Not Flapper."
Yeah.
Or Marge. Not Flapper. Yeah, the next one we have here of Usopp, Luffy, and Zoro is another Jump cover. Really good one. Like 3 really solid illustrations here. Very badass. And following that, we have the Picnic with Zombies.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, that is a fun one. And he does have a comment on this. Let me get there. It's a very predictable one. Let's see. He says, I was getting really into a foreign zombie drama, so of course I'm going to draw zombies. What am I going to do? Not draw zombies? So yeah, Oda was watching The Walking Dead, which we've already done. I think he's made comments about it too on the author comments, but yeah.
I like hearing when he gets into Western
shows,
media in general. Yeah, like Game of Thrones. Thank you, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Robin feeding the zombie the grapes is lovely as he's popping out of the ground. And the Thriller zombies in the background as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny that that it's also like a full on daytime, like just hanging out in the graveyard in the day.
That's actually my favorite part about this is that you never really just see zombies hanging out during the day, having a good drink, scaring the hell out of Brooke. It's amazing. Nice.
Seducing Sanji. It's all there.
Sanji's into it, and if that doesn't describe Sanji,
let's see. So on the next page, we have some more promotional illustration stuff. These are very cute. This is, let's see, 22 and 23 of 2015. So this was the Golden Week issue. Special Jump, Japan region poster. So presumably, these are probably corresponding to prefectures. I want to say maybe Chopper's is Toyama because the character on that is from Toyama, and Luffy's like a mountain, so he's probably up north somewhere. And Nami with her tangerines, she's probably Okinawa, I would guess. So yeah, very very cute little illustrations. And then we have the volume 79 cover with Gear 4 Luffy and Doflamingo. Akainu Futura.
The announcer, does anyone remember his name?
Gyas.
Yes. That's right.
That's the one. Yeah. That's a character we all remember. Ed. This is a really cluttered cover, and it remains cluttered in this form. I think. Just imagine this now with also the One Piece logo and all the other stuff. Yeah, it's
right.
It actually looks better than it does on the cover.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a well-drawn cover, especially since this was in Oda's, darker times when it comes to drawing. I think. So it looks good, but it's a little cluttered.
Yeah. Then we have the Summer is Falling spread with the giant octopuses and the inner tube falling down. All kinds of weird perspective things going on in this one. The infamous more Nami under and side boob, and Usopp's lie.
Don't forget that butt.
Reality. Yep, but she got the butt.
Real.
Yeah, that was another
turbulent juice.
More turbulent juice. Yes.
Yes, another calendar page.
And then Usopp with his very on-brand swim trunks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
I do. I think we talked about this when this came out, but I do love the blending of colors, like on the octopi, like the one on Usopp with the purple going to red, going to orange. The one by Sanji's hand, that's the green to orange to pink.
Yeah,
a lot of great use of colors. I like this.
They're like cuttlefish. They're so colorful.
It's a real.
Bring us the cuttlefish.
Very colorful.
Yeah, there's more to like about this color spread than just the booty. So.
And on the next page, we have the Jump cover from that same issue where Luffy has his pirate super soaker, and with the backpack tanks as well.
That they would use in the opening weekend.
We can.
That's right.
We are. What was we fart?
We go running, screaming forever.
Running, screaming forever.
Yeah.
That's a different. Opening.
Oh, it's a different one. Okay.
Yeah. It was actually running. What was the actual one? I don't remember the real name of it now.
It's just running, screaming forever. That's what I remember.
Okay, fine.
But the actual words, that's not even the title of the song. So
what was? Oh, it was
there was Stand Up, which was Punk Hazard.
Right.
Was it Hard Knock Days?
Yeah.
It was Wake Up and Hard Knock Days.
Yeah.
Hard Knock Days, I think, is running, screaming forever, though.
No.
But
Wake Up is
running, screaming forever should have also been the title of the Dressrosa arc. Ooh, okay. We've lost half of our listeners. Let's continue.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one.
Sorry, I don't mean to hate on Dressrosa.
Speaking of cluttered covers, here is volume 80. This might be my biggest offender as far as like where the hell, how does this all fit together? Where you have like Luffy and Rebecca on the front, and they're kind of running on top of a real close up on Fujitora, and then there's like a diagonal stripe in the middle. That's the cups, the sun's cups, and behind that is like you have Tsuru and Sengoku, and then even a little shot of a Weevil, and then like Miss Buckin in the top left, and then you have Buggy, who is looking menacing, but then like he is in front of this purple background, but then his hair goes around the back of the background. Like
it goes above and in front of the red background, but behind the purple background.
Yeah.
Buggy doesn't need to be in this cover.
It's so weird.
What are you talking about? It's Buggy.
Yeah, well, no, I mean Buggy's fine. I'm just saying, like,
Buggy sells.
Obey the laws of.
I think if you just got rid of that purple right there, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I hope you were going to say thermodynamics, because otherwise.
Thermodynamics, yeah. He's breaking the laws. Neil deGrasse Tyson's going to have a word with him.
The only other place you can see that purple background is under Suru's nose.
The next cover, next spread is this is the roadside, tea shop place. The thou shouldst eat to live, not live to eat. Where they've got the, I guess this is dango instead. They're all eating them on the skewers, and there's the Zoro's reading the newspaper that says the Hippo clan has escaped, and yeah, it's great. He has a funny comment on this one where he says, okay, so there's a bit of a pun. I'm gonna have to figure out something. So ohagi is the name of a like a type of Japanese sweet, I think. And he says, oh, is this ohagi? Is this a famed tea shop's ohagi? No, it's not ohagi. It's oihagi, which means bandits. And and the whole thing with bandits is that what do? They if they catch you, they strip you down to your skivvy. They take everything you're worth. And so he says, after this image was taken, then they got stripped down for all they were worth by Nami the thief. So there you go. She pretends to be the daughter of the establishment, the serving maid of the establishment, but instead she's going to rip them all off.
I love the Hippo clan so much, and the faces they're making. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hippos are deadly animals.
Yeah, they are.
They're amongst the most deadly, but in this color spread, they're adorable.
Next page, we have some not illustration, autograph style, Eiichiro Oda autographs where he draws Luffy, but it also has Ace and Sabo as well.
Were these coasters or something?
These are for the Shueisha 2015 Natsukomi pin badges or plate badges. So this would be, I'm not even sure. I guess these would be like buttons.
Are these like goods that come with a special issue of a magazine, the summer issue?
I don't think so. I don't know. It just says Natsukomi buttons. So it's some kind of Shueisha promotional thing. But I would have to actually do like a Google search to figure out the full context of that. But yeah, you can see with the circular kind of color background designs. That's how you can see where they were made into buttons. And then the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys illustration with Luffy, that was issue 1 for 2016. Followed by the characters of the world, where you have all these Straw Hats dressed up in the traditional garb of various countries. And
so I believe it's Sanji is France, Nam is the United States, Brazil for Usopp. I'm guessing China.
Carnival.
For Frankie, the UK for, or whatever's going to be left of it for Brooke.
Wow.
Look, I mean, Scotland is thinking of doing things from what I heard. Rob, I'm sorry, Canada.
Yeah, I think he's the First Nations.
I think Inuit.
Yeah.
Or in India for Robin, Germany for Zoro, and I'm gonna guess Japan for.
Probably right.
Luffy, or some Straw Hat Nation that exists in the real world that I wasn't aware of.
It's definitely Italy.
Yep.
That is how most Italians dress, with a top knot and
the Guinness.
Then we get the Guinness World Record for 320,866,000 copies between December 97 and 2014. So there you go. That's record-breaking One Piece, followed by the Sea Freak. This one I remember. Yeah, this one I remember very clearly because it was definitely a very recent calendar. I want to say, was this like November and December of last year's calendar or something like that? I feel like I just saw this.
I remember I posted a picture of it on my Twitter when I turned that picture over, just like the picture of Brooke with the. This is
when Luffy gets to hang out with the older kids.
Yeah,
all they do is smoke and drink.
You mean the older cats?
Though, this cover spread is revealing because Frankie is not smoking. Luffy's cigarette is not lit, but Robin's is.
You see what the pack of cigarettes says in the bottom? It says "killed by smoke." If you turn the color spread sideways, you can see the one by Robin's
That's amazing.
Foot says, "killed by smoke."
Stop it, Robin. They're no good for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like Oda's coming.
I mean, it's accurate.
Oda's probably coming to the sudden realization, like, I'm killing myself right now.
Is Binks of Liquor a remix?
Well, actually, Luffy is not smoking. That isn't even a cigarette in Luffy's mouth because you can see in between his legs the lollipop packaging.
He pulled a 4Kids on us.
Yep. And then we go to 2016 and we start that off with the volume 81, very, very Zoe heavy cover here. Man, he packed a lot of characters in this one.
Couple that I'm not sure not even have names.
Yeah, like the guys on the left, in the background, right? Yeah,
it's Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah,
interesting.
Man, what a great cover! I love that one. Followed by the this is the snowy Dulskoi Panda. They're all bringing their groceries in or whatever to the log cabin. And this one was famous. This has another author comment on the next page that said, this illustration I did while we were working on Film Gold. If you look at the clothes that they bought, you will actually see that they are the costumes they wear in the movie. So yeah, we had mentioned that.
Yeah, Greg mentioned that. I remember Greg mentioning that, and we being
no idea.
And you can actually tell, like, I think the ingredients they bought are for nabe, because you can see a big nabe pot in the One Piece.
Yeah.
We also mentioned that. I remember this conversation. I mean, now we're getting into 2016, so this was only 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's not.
This is pretty much the end of the regular material.
Right. Yeah. So that and the next page we do have another nice like marker illustration. Let me see, what is this one from? This is Jump. This is volume 3 of Jump Ryu. So this was the
one with the
video
DVD
thing, right?
This was still pretty widely available. Much later, people were not buying this in the Kino that I go, New York City. Mm-hmm. It includes like a really nice version of this illustration. Plus, they have a DVD of Oda actually drawing this illustration.
I mean, it's a Region 2 DVD, so you need to,
it's tough.
But you can rip it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you could. Isn't there a way to play? I think you could switch your region settings in your computer. That's the thing you could.
A limited number of times.
A limited number of times, yeah.
So I think
play
for
it with
Oda,
player.
For Oda, it's worth it.
That's stupid. You just got to go to Japan and just play it on a DVD.
Get a multi-region DVD player. It's not that hard.
Yeah. So we gave out at least one of those at conventions. So I hope they're still listening to us, to whoever we gave.
The intensive process of doing screen tone is the most important thing I got from that DVD.
Damn. I still haven't seen it.
So after that, we get into the Kabuki illustrations. This is for Super Kabuki 2 One Piece, which started in October of 2015. And so, he drew a bunch of individual character pieces, and they were nice enough to put them all on individual pages. So you get all the detail there of the Straw Hats dressed in this kind of traditional, very fancy kimonos and such.
Brooke on the shamisen is my favorite here.
Yeah, they're all great. Like I love that Usopp is doing one of the good poses, holding the hand out with the fan.
It's actually Chopper's doing that too, but he's got
Chopper. Right, Chopper is adorable, like trying to look mean. I love the eyebrows, the crease on the eyes. They're so great.
You could tell he's like really struggling to look mean.
Right.
Like, I am too cute, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, it's great. Nami with the parasol. Robin looks real fancy. She looks
Robin with bangs.
Oh yeah, old school Robin. I love Frank. God, Frankie's so cool with the gloves, the armor style gloves, and the chest armor and everything. Like, that's a really, really cool one.
Again, old pompadour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, classic Frankie. And then yes, Brooke with the shamisen is very appropriate. He's got the plucker. I forget what they call it. The bachi maybe. And
this next one, sorry, keep going.
The Luffy doing the full, with the Kumadori face paint and arm paint and everything. Very, very cool one.
This next picture is the only one in this book I'm completely unfamiliar with. Like, I really
was this for the Kabuki? For the plot of the Kabuki?
It is for the Kabuki. And yeah, this one is wild. It's I mean, in form, it's very similar to the things that the Straw Hat ones, but they're all together, and you've got the big three, the former three admirals, Shanks and Ace in the middle, and on the left you have Whitebeard, Jinbei, and Hancock.
The amount of detail is insane.
Yeah,
especially on Hancock, whose pose looks like she's saying, "No, stop the fighting."
Yeah. She doesn't have to say it. She just like holds her hands out. She's just like mentally willing them to stop.
I realize that none of you guys got to see the Kabuki other than myself, the abridged film version of it. But this just reminded me of how campy and hysterical Akainu is, because he's
really
he's much more of a ham in that.
Huh. Wow. I love the design on Aokiji's armor. That's like super, super detailed as well. Like, that must have been a lot of coloring work to get that done.
As a non-artist, it baffles me how he was even able to do this. It's really.
And Jinbei is wearing a design of a dragon that's making the same kind of face that Jinbei makes.
Yeah. It's a very very Muppety dragon.
He does represent the Muppet tribe. of the Muppet people.
Muppet Clan.
The Muppet Clan.
Do you know the Muppet Clan?
Yeah, have you seen the Muppet Clan?
The Muppet Clan.
All right, and then following that is, I think this is the one you were mentioning before, Zach. The other kabuki, or not even kabuki style. I guess this is more like ukiyo-e.
Yeah, I love ukiyo-e style painting, so this is like super up my alley.
And this one, of course, being from the manga itself, clearly referencing Zoe here with all of the Cat Viper and Dog Storm and the ninja.
And there's a lot of ukiyo-e like references. Brook, Kinemon. I mean, I think probably everyone in some regard. Sanji.
Right. Luffy in Gear 4 with like the gnarled muscles and everything. Like, God, his leg looks real screwed up. It's very stylized. But this is this is such a cool one.
There's Pedro in this. Pedro, man.
Yeah, Pedro looks great. This was my background picture on my computer for a very long time. So
yeah.
That's how you know. That's how you really know.
Yeah, and then there's one last shot of Luffy in his kabuki getup, and that's the end of the reprinted material. After that, we have the interview with Katsuya Terada, the artist and illustrator and mangaka. And I'm gonna skip most of this. Like, it's I
want to say before you get into that, I think this was on the official One Piece Twitter account. They showed both of these artists drawing the monochrome. So if you're on the AAC feed, you can see this picture, the monochrome talk picture. Right. And it is so like live, like, you know, each like you can see each person drawing it. It is really cool. Like, you don't see the actual people drawing it. It's like just like the live printing. Right. I don't know how to describe it, but
the pens and such.
I would take a look. It's on one of the official One Piece accounts, I believe.
So you know, the interviews that Oda has done in this series before this point, you know, some of them are you know, with mangaka that he knows or that he's worked with, you know, that he has a history with or has idolized in some way, you know, like Toriyama being the first one. And he also talked with Taiyo Matsumoto and you know, some other people that he and what's his name, Yoshitaka Amano, the artist who does like the Final Fantasy image character image stuff. And so sometimes he, you know, they get into some real interesting stuff. This one I feel like is maybe one of the less interesting because they get into this very like sort of I don't know, philosophical, like art doing, you know, working like this or working like that, or I like working with these materials and those materials. So it's a little harder, I think, to dig into in terms of like being a layman and just kind of picking up what they're talking about. But you know, they do talk about like you know, how do you view digital stuff? Terada does a lot of digital work. You know, it's like, oh well, it's a tool is a tool sort of thing, and he is you know, he expresses his admiration that Oda, you know, sticks with it. Like, you know, do you ever feel like doing you know, more digital stuff? And Oda says something like, I've been testing it out. Like, I've been doing more and more little stuff for like promotional things, but he does say that, like, as far as he's concerned, you know, for the manga itself, like the stuff that forms the canon material, like he will always, you know, be using hand on paper, pen on paper. You know, that's just his style. That's what people look for, and that's what he wants to provide. And let me see, was there something else? There were some I want to say there was some funny stuff. Yeah, he does have a little comment about you know, like getting older, basically, like, you know, feeling like your time is limited, like so like you know, that the this whole live action foreign drama, the Hollywood drama, is getting kicked off, and Oda said like, yeah, that was part of my thinking process for that is like, oh, here's this offer, and he's like, I don't know if 5 or 10 years later if I'm going to have the stamina to do my manga and deal with all of the decision making and stuff like that, keeping up with this other project. So I thought this is kind of like my last chance. So that's kind of part of the reason why he accepted it and decided to go ahead with all of that, behind the scenes stuff. So they just talk about their tools and their aspirations and so on. There was an interesting thing that they say about like not getting bored, I guess, or maintaining your like a emotional interest or something like that. And they talk about sleeping. So Terada does give him a little crap. He's like, man, you should really get some sleep, like, because I've always been the type of guy that once I run out of sleep, or once I'm kind of running on fumes, like I just shut down. I can't do it anymore. I have to sleep and start again in the morning. There was one time when I was drawing something. I was drawing the number 5, like the Arabic numeral 5, and then I realized that I had drawn it as the kanji for 7 instead. And Oda says, yeah, actually, there was a time once when I suddenly realized that I was drawing boobs on Luffy. So this is a great little
what was the name of
story there?
The guy who writes, was it Gegege no Kitaro, who always used to complain about, all these so-called great manga artists who died young because they couldn't get any sleep.
Right.
They're doing it all wrong. Like, yeah,
I think he did say something like that when
or specifically talking about Tezuka, I think.
Yeah, he says something like that. And I think the other interview that Oda did with the Anpanman creator, who was like getting on to 90 or something like that when they did it, he said something similar to that, where it's like, yeah, you just got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And they talk about like drawing female characters. It was kind of a little interesting because Terada does a lot of female like sort of not model based art, but he does a lot of illustrations and covers for books and albums and things like that. So he mentions that he had been like his first assistant job was for Masakazu Katsura, who is the author of Video Girl Eye and Eyes and Wingman and Zetman, and he also did the character profile or the character designs for Tiger and Bunny. And he is also known for drawing lots of very cute girls. He was one of the rom-com guys for a while. And so Terada is talking about how like, oh, I don't really have a model or like a look, a certain type of actress or something that I think like, oh, this is my favorite type of face. Like I want to draw this. And he says, let's see, I like drawing beautiful women, and you kind of have to, you need to study them, or to look at a lot of them and kind of break down what it is that you find attractive about them to establish kind of like that concept in your head. Otherwise, your standard of beauty will it'll get weird. Like if you're drawing a lot of makeup, if you get too sidetracked down the wrong side, you'll realize that you're really just you're supposed to be drawing girls or women, but instead you're just kind of drawing makeup, and it's there's a tricky balance to doing that. So that's the sort of stuff that they talk about in this interview. And so I think that about wraps it up. Don't want to go too deep into it, since eventually presumably we will get to this in English publication as well,
hopefully.
And hopefully.
Eventually,
and last but not least, we have the author comment at the back from Eiichiro Oda. And he says, when I was a little kid, when I dreamed of being a mangaka, there was one day when I saw a quote from a great veteran mangaka that just floored. It just shocked me. And it said, manga is the most fun when you're drawing it for a hobby. You should not make this your job. And then he says, when I read this, I was like dreaming of I knew that I wanted to be a manga artist, and that just pissed me off. I was like, this guy's already a pro. Like, he has he's got the life. He's living it up, having fun, drawing manga. And now he's going to turn around and tell other people, like, don't do what I do. I was like, what the hell kind of advice is that? And he says, of course, this guy was one of the great masters of manga, and I was just a child. So please forgive my, immature opinion. And after that, I did become a pro. And now I want to tell that now deceased artist, I want to tell him, look, see, it is fun. I can't speak for every era because the business changes with the times. But I can say that I'm enjoying my career right now. I love doing what I do, and it's all because of the support of the readers that helped make this, the 8th of my art books, a reality. Thank you for all of your support. And there you go. And then there's some stickers in the back of a lot of the spreads. I like that they gave them the Hyotoko, the Goofy expression stickers as well.
Too afraid to ever use any of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a shame.
That's always my problem with color walks.
They really need to put like 2 sheets, like the same thing, so that you can just feel free to use one. That'd be nice.
I think they don't expect fans to be as OCD, let's say, as us. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how to describe that. Okay, I think that'll do it. That was really a super interesting dive. These color walks, if I haven't stressed this before, are the best purchase I think you could make as a international fan of One Piece, because there's not really much text you need to know, and they're just great to have. And they're great for multiple purchases, too, because I'm going to be getting the compendiums and stuff when those come out from Viz as well. Just because the art is beautiful and you can't go wrong. Makes a great gift, too, all that.
Yeah.
No one's paying me to say this for some reason. But, yeah. I thank you, Stephen, for walking us through it.
That was fun.
Yeah. Let's move on into whatever is next. This is our discussion on the Whole Cake Island arc. Now, if you want a blow-by-blow about our thoughts of the Whole Cake Island arc, from each basically each big section of the arc, we did that back in February with Chapter 508, Pez Dispenser, whose name is as exactly evocative as you'd assume it is. And so today we're going to have kind of a looser discussion, especially since Steve and Greg haven't been on the podcast very much to kind of share their thoughts on the Whole Cake Island arc as a whole, where it kind of fits in their One Piece continuum. So I think it's only fair, Steve, that we start with you. What did you think of the Whole Cake Island arc?
It was good.
Okay, well, that was easy.
A short podcast.
Yeah.
Straight to the point. Well, I was on an episode where I think we were ranking it, despite it not being ended. It didn't end at this point. I think this was back in January or February, and surprisingly, the arc wound up ranking up really high for me. I think it was number 6. Didn't crack my top 5, but it was number 6, so that kind of was shocking. But this was a lot of fun, where it was there was a lot of great setup in the Fishman Island arc, in Punk Hazard, and Dressrosa, and in Zoe. And I remember the discussions always being a lot of fun. I think we definitely over theorized a lot of things, mainly Pudding, whose powers have been used, I think, a whopping total of 3 times. But it was a lot of fun, and I think it's definitely I think someone coined the term, it's the Disney arc, which is I think rings really true. There's so much creativity. there was always something. I felt like there was always something new coming from this environment. Like I think, like Dressrosa, once you got over it being Spain and there's toys everywhere, that was it. You really didn't get anything new out of it. But like even these most recent chapters, we were still being introduced to like new islands and new aesthetics, if you will. It's a shame that I got to miss out on the majority of the chapters last year, being the wedding ceremony, which was a ton of fun. And I did get to, I was on for the Mother Carmel flashback, which was great in its own way. But this was just, I think this was really refreshing. I've said this a lot. As much as I would love for the new story arc to start, like I'm ready for it. I wasn't anxious for this to be over already, despite it being a lot of chasing towards the end. I wasn't exhausted like I was at the end of Dressrosa. I was enjoying it, but I felt like we were. I think we were peaking, so I felt like it was time to end. It's good to end on a high than a low.
Believe it or not, Steve, we discussed this last week. Whole Cake Island is the number 2 longest arc in One Piece chapter.
Well, I do remember that because I do listen to the podcast.
Oh, you do? Great. I love it. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if you were caught up at at this point.
I have not read Whole Cake Island in the last 3 months. I'm just making a guess. No, I really like this arc. I still don't feel strongly about it. Like it's one of my favorite arcs. That's why I was really shocked when we were comparing it to our rankings from years ago, and I had it all the way at number 6. But I mean, there's a lot of strong points, a lot of great character moments, and it's so much creativity, and it's just something that that One Piece, like I think that just Oda hadn't got the chance to really express in quite a while, and it was just so much fun. But it was good. I'm gonna give it some time over the years and see how it stacks up, but it was, I don't think it was ever a boring podcast, I gotta say.
No, even the thing is, even the controversial chapters, like even the chapters where there were major issues, we had a lot to talk about still. So there was never a boring podcast. I could agree. Greg, what were your thoughts on the Whole Cake Island arc?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to pat my own back for the cake theory.
Yeah, this was our Reddit fans gave you a lot of credit, so don't you worry, Greg.
That went over well, but unfortunately, it's one of the cases where the theory is. I don't even know if this is personally. I don't want to sound like vain, but I think my idea for it was a little bit more satisfying than what ended up actually happening. And that is, if you're not familiar with it, it was the end would be, instead of Sanji just baking a cake, which is kind of what happened. He did kind of just bake a cake and she kind of just ate it. Was for the family to kind of work together with Sanji using their powers and ingredients in a kind of Iron Chef kind of cake baking battle that would occur. And that did not happen. And that's a shame. That's a shame that didn't happen. It's also a shame that, a character like Judge didn't get to witness the cake being eaten, because I thought that was essential to his character, seeing to break his character, to see what his son was capable of through baking, and that neither of those things happened, and it's not bad. I'm not salty. I'm not sour, but the fact that neither of those happened seems a little bit odd as a character choice, because a lot of the cake theory wasn't based on what I wanted the characters to do, but what seemed to make sense for them as characters. And so those didn't seem to come forward in this arc, at least. And that's a shame, but who cares? We still get the result of we know as readers what Sanji was capable of in basically taking down an emperor with the power of his ability to cook, which is incredible, and in a time frame that's just flabbergasting. I mean, what was it? A few hours that had happened, and that's we as readers should be impressed about what happened. The same way that we as readers should be astounded that Luffy was able to stand up to somebody like Katakuri for as long as he did. Um, it, I think the knee-jerk reaction is to be disappointed at a lot of the wrap-up, but when you take a step backward and you look at what the characters have actually accomplished in the arc, I think it's really quite impressive. Even if we don't come out of it feeling victorious, and we shouldn't, because it's not. It is. Oda called it bad and musical, and I think that's kind of a bastardization of English. I don't think it's the best choice. I think what he means is it's a sad ending. It's not something that there should be a celebration for, and there isn't. There is no celebration. There's no, what, as they say in Japanese, utage at the end of the arc. He makes a very clear distinction that what Sanji is cooking at the end there is food. He's just cooking regular food. And that's, it's what is it? It's like a fried rice. It's a stir fried rice. That's all it is. It's not Luffy's, typical beer flagon in the air.
I think it's the fried rice he serves Gin in the Baratie arc. Similar.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Does it go back to that? All right. Very good.
So. Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, it's a very clear distinction on Oda's part that this is not something that we come out of feeling celebratory. I think this arc, and Stephen and I have talked extensively about this between the two of us privately, but and I don't want to steal all of his thunder here, but it's like the reverse of what has happened so far in the New World, in that it's an incredible arc. The pace just keeps going, and you think it's over, but it has a whole year left in it, and you just keep going, and there's more interesting things that are introduced, and then the end is just kind of flat, and there's no real climax to it.
I'm curious, Greg, what you think.
Go ahead, please.
What you think of keeping Pedro dead at this point?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because I probably wouldn't have even addressed it. I'm on such a seesaw of whether I want to believe whether he is dead or not. Mm-hmm. And that last scene with Sanji and the wind, and that's such a unique panel. I don't know if you guys discussed that or not on the recap. I haven't heard yet, but that panel really tells you that something different has occurred here. He even is careful to draw the winds there. I don't know if we're supposed to take that as like winds of change or just, that gives it a more lonely feeling. But is this the first time that we have a character death that he's not going to go back on?
Pound died, I think.
Pound, I'm not counting Pound as dead. I'm counting that only because they have to have a family reunion, and he's no way.
No.
But Pedro, okay. So here's what I'm doing. We as readers are supposed to believe that he's dead. All right, and for the first time in forever, Oda has not given us a little hint. Do we? How to preface? There is a way that Pedro could be alive. Does Mom have his years stored up? Can she even store years? Because remember, she took life from him.
And Charlotte Moscato came back to life in the last couple of chapters too. So
yes, and that is something that everybody and their mother has kind of been waiting for. So we know that she can restore life. Do her years, when she takes them, is she able to store them up? Is she able to use them at a particular time? Do they age at a particular rate? Those kind of questions. So can she restore life to him? Maybe. I forget exactly how many years have transpired since she took those years from him. But also, the other setup is the case of Peckham's, where, nobody can call me back except for Pedro. So that kind of sets up for a heroic entrance for Pedro. But for the first time, we don't have any kind of Dr. Ho sitting out in the desert fixing Pell. There's no doctor, I don't know, Scratch and Sniff, ready, fixing some mysterious character, of this leopard printed character.
Right.
There's none of that. So for the first time, I am going to assume that, because as readers we are supposed to know now that Pedro is dead. So until something else occurs, I'm considering him dead, and I will not be surprised if he comes back. But because Oda has handled this so well, even if he comes back, I can't be disappointed because of how he's handled it. If he did Pell this way, I think everybody would have been super happy and super hyped when he did come back in going to an onsen or something. So
I think we mentioned that Oda said in an SBS, like, or I forget the context, Stephen, but like basically you could take any character that had died, like, or had been defeated, he could always bring them back, and that's kind of one of the positives about never killing your characters.
Right.
This was the last off-week episode that we did. It was the last volume.
Okay. You think I'd be able to remember that then?
So like 6 weeks ago.
So yeah, I mean, by potentially that's kind of why I think, Greg, it would be exciting to see Pedro back maybe later. I was a fan of his character, but at the same time, I think maybe for character development, him staying dead might have more potential.
I think like if you look at the circumstances of a lot of these fake out deaths, that you could make an argument that this is significantly different, because like in Pell's example, he's he's kind of fulfilling the duty of the guardian spirit of the nation, right? To take the bomb and to fly away from Vivi to protect her life and everyone else's lives in the city there. And he does that. He fulfills his duty, and then it turns out that he survives. And guys like Pagaya was basically just a straight up victim. And I think if you look at it from like the story perspective, like, okay, did this character need what is being served by doing this? Mm-hmm. Like supposedly blowing up Pagaya, it makes Eneru a worse guy. Like he's what an evil guy. I can't believe he killed this, nice silly dad. And that's not, I think, what Oda wanted you to remember Pagaya as having been a victim. That wasn't the role that he wanted for that character. But like Pedro, everything about Pedro is like so dead on, reinforced that like, this is a guy on his last mission, that he's got a score to settle. He's he needs to help the dawning of the world and all this stuff. This is the guy, this guy's super important. He has to live. Like, I don't have much time left. I got to give it up. All those flags, as they call them, that make this kind of like the only real way that his part to play in the story could finish. And I don't think it's necessarily, you could say the same thing about all the other characters that we've seen come back, or to the same degree, at least, like compared to Pell, for example. So that's why I feel like Pedro is the most likely, and Pound. Yeah, I agree with Greg. There are other uses for him that Oda could bring him back to do, but I feel like Pedro is. I feel like that's a better bet than any of the characters we've seen so far.
I think if Oda really wanted us to know for a fact that he was dead, I think he could have been a lot more explicit. But I do think that him not backpedaling at the end here is, a part of the function of this ending is not entirely a happy ending like those other examples. But I do think my gut says we're kind of getting set up for like a Mr. 2 situation where we're kind of left in the dark, and then we're being buttered up for like a tease of the fact that he's still alive or something.
Mr. 2's kind of trick is almost dying and not being dead. That's happened multiple times.
I do think that Pedro is alive. I think he at least has to have like lost a limb or something, like he took from Perospero.
He lost his other eye.
Yeah.
Pedro, how come you didn't come back to us? Well, I'm blind now. It was hard to find you guys.
Well, all he needed was Wanda to help him get there.
Guide dog, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather not see him come back because I don't know what purpose he would serve the story, but that hasn't stopped plenty of characters from coming back before. So.
Greg,
that's a really good point, Steve. That's actually the big question we need to be asking ourselves is whether he's quote unquote dead or not. Would him being back serve a purpose in the story? And is Oda ready to let him go? Obviously, Pedro's ready to let go. He's kind of done his Whitebeard self-sacrifice thing, and he's done his stand. But is Oda ready to let that character go? Does he have a use for him?
There are characters we haven't seen in forever, like Eneru, who we assume or hope will come back in the future at some point. So, like, we might not see Pedro for like 10, 15 years, in the manga. It's possible.
Definitely possible. Well, actually, speaking of length, that was kind of the next thing I wanted to address. So it's a good segue. All right. Going back into all of this, Oda mentioned at Jump Festa at 2016, which is taking place in winter, December specifically, 2015, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. He mentions that next year is the year of Sanji. And so 2016 was the year of Sanji. And how do Sanji fans feel about that? I know there's a lot of bitterness out there. A lot of people don't feel cool, man. Yeah, he is cool. When Oda says year of Sanji, what does he mean? Does he mean that Sanji's going to have a great fight? Does he mean that Sanji's going to be secret agent man? I took that as meaning that the story will focus around Sanji. And that's exactly what it did in 2016. I don't know why a lot of people are really disappointed. I think they're getting themselves a little bit too excited about theories put forward by theorists out there, instead of taking a step back and looking at it themselves and trying to analyze, well, Oda has said something very ambiguous. What does this mean? 2017, or rather Jump Festa 2017, so December 2016, Oda says that we will be going to Reverie and Wano in the next year. So, oh my God, we're going to Reverie and Wano. What does this mean? And in the space of a year, summer 2017, in an interview for the Kabuki publication, there's a Kabuki book out that has an interview with Oda and the Kabuki actor. This took place in summer, I think June or July 2017. Oda says that it's about 1 to 2 years to Wano. All right. So what does this mean about this arc length? Because this is what we started with is cake theory. All these things wrapping up. Was it a satisfying ending? For him, at pretty much 10 months ago, to say 1 to 2 years tells me that he didn't know how he wanted to wrap this up, or not how. It tells me that he didn't know where he wanted to wrap this up. I did the math of it all, and it's all out there. It's in the ether somewhere on the internet. And basically, I was putting my big theories for like what would happen in the arc and how far we'd go on whether or not Luffy attended Reverie or not. And where I sit right now, Luffy will not be attending Reverie. That's my thought on it. Coming out of this arc whatsoever, I think it will be its own thing. And I think for the first time in a long time, we'll be looking at an arc or a mini arc without Luffy. And I think Oda was debating about not whether Luffy was going to go to Reverie or not, but how far he would take Big Mom's story. And I think that's why we have kind of a downer ending here. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think he wanted to potentially wrap up more with this arc with relation to Mom. And I think that he came to a point. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Elbaf is, I think, where a lot of this will come to a culmination. But I think he wanted to go a little bit further, maybe with Pudding in this arc. And, we talk about how, we joke about how, Pudding seems to be useless and, her ability seems to have, only been used, once or twice. But I still strongly believe that a lot of the theories I put forward this arc will be revisited 2-3 years down the line in Elbaf.
Yeah.
Could definitely
Right,
be the
so-
case.
I mean,
how
and
do
also
we
it's
judge
sort
that?
of
Yeah.
you have the sort of spectacle of Luffy taking on a emperor in an indirect way, and Oda giving the signal that he's not nearly ready to take emperor down yet. Which is something I was sort of grappling with, like towards the end of the arc, of how Oda would end it, and I came to realize that escape was the much more likely scenario than ever actually trying to combat her. And if like the cake didn't knock her out, they were just going to have to run, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, it's that's how I came into. Okay, my idea at the forefront here is Mom is not a bad character. All right, Mom is not a evil person. She is a selfish person. She is selfish. She's probably the most. I mean, look at the words of Soul Pocus. It's literally, in Japanese, wagamama kotaba. Selfish word. I don't know how you translated that, Stephen. You probably did much better than selfish words. But
what he wrote, like wagamama na mama, which means selfish mama, and he repeated it like mama, and I think I called it mama so material, so it's mama material.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
that's her issue. That's what she is. That's her quirk, so to speak. And she has a decent dream. She has a good idea. She is implementing it in the worst way in history, but she has a good idea. So that was my idea, is that Luffy
stole that idea, to be fair, and from someone who was lying about it, to also be fair.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of Big Mom,
the richness of the layering.
Yeah, Big Mom is someone, a really fascinating character at the end of the day, where it's, action before words, it's action before thought, which is why I think we've made a lot of prescient references on the podcast. It's just been, I think she's probably one of the most fascinating villains we've had, so to see her kind of go the way of an Eneru type, where she kind of escape is the wrong word, but lives on to see another day, is interesting and very different than what we normally get at the end of a One Piece arc. Greg, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important that she is, because she is so selfish, she doesn't get what she wants here. She gets nothing of what she wants. So is it a victory?
She got the cake. That's about it.
Yeah,
she got the cake, but the cake is not even of her. Like, it's something that she wanted to eat and she was happy about. But like, what did she lose? She lost Germa. I mean, she can take them by control now, but now she's had to take that by control. She didn't get it, as easily as she wanted. She wanted this. She wanted to defeat the Straw Hats, and she lost them. I think it's a huge loss for her for not getting what she wanted, and in that sense, a victory for the Straw Hats. But is this the most satisfying ending? No, I don't feel so. Judged as this arc, but this is going to be a Skypiea 2.0, where you got to say, look, there is a bigger picture here. We know from the fact that Oda didn't know how he wanted to wrap this up. There's a lot more to this. So before we sit here and complain, and I don't mean us, I mean, before you sit there and complain about how, is Oda losing it? Has he lost the touch? Has he lost the magic? There is a bigger story here, and he can't wait to tell it. And he knows exactly what it is at this point. I guarantee you that he knows exactly what he wants to do with the characters. He just knew that he wanted to keep on going with the story, first and foremost. And I agree with that decision. I don't think the story would have been saved by any more dilly-dallying with Pudding's abilities, or Streusen, it's literally Chekhov's cook. Because you don't have a scene of Beige going, he'd probably be pretty strong if he fought, and then having the guy knocked out. That will all come back, and you just need to. I know I sound like I'm doing a hard sell here, but just be patient, and all of this will come back to the forefront. The story with Mom is not over, and of course it isn't, because we have a huge rivalry going on now with Luffy and Katakuri, which I don't think I've been able to talk about on the podcast. but I am just so psyched that Luffy has a rival. He has someone who sees him as a rival. He has Kobe, who looks up to him and is competitive, but he doesn't, look up to Kobe. Now he has someone to kind of look up to and to kind of want to coit or to exceed. And I'm just so excited about that. I love that for him as a character.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And it's a lot different than any other arc we've seen in the past. And as with most of the New World arcs, it's not really self-contained, but most of the New World arcs have been like set up to something else. This one is like, okay, kind of a side quest kind of thing, and then kind of like an open end thing at the end. It's presented some really interesting questions. Sam, you haven't had too much of a chance to speak. Whole Cake Island thoughts that you've been thinking about?
I mean, feel free to lead me along with questions as I talk, because I'm probably going to ramble. But Whole Cake Island this is going to go down as one of my favorite arcs of the whole series. It is my number 3, right behind Water 7 at 2 and Skypiea at 1.
Save your rankings. I'm going to try and do a very impromptu version of that when we round up here. Stephen sighed about that, just to note. He does not like rankings. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, just the entire second half of this arc is so much of what I want out of a One Piece arc. I think it's so the emphasis is so much on momentum and chaos, but it's organized and everything's kind of connecting to this and that. And you've got the kind of I think we've talked about this before, where you've got Luffy versus Katakuri happening alongside Big Mom. It's kind of similar to Luffy versus Lucci and the Buster Call. But then there's also a little bit of Oars wrapped up into that, which is my personal favorite fight in the series, where you've got the crew teaming up together to sort of fend off Big Mom, and everything just kind of turns into just an adventure. We're doing this huge crazy thing where there's just some of the images of the whole second half of the arc is just burnt into my memory right now. Big Mom jumping onto the ship, Carrot in the moon. The cooler parts of Luffy versus Katakuri, I really, really, really got a lot out of that. And the way that it ended, it's kind of a case where I'm holding my breath to see what the actual payoff is, because I think there's kind of stuff hiding that out of sight right now based on where we're at as of 9:02. But the sort of what Greg was saying about he doesn't think Big Mom's that bad of a person. I think kind of the point of the ending here is that Big Mom is that bad of a person. She's kind of the ultimate bad power, where she can get whatever she wants.
I think it's what is a chaotic evil kind of thing? Or
yeah, kind of. But she's in a case where, I mean, if Total Land is just a big metaphor for an abusive relationship, leave her life. She is an abusive parent who you cannot escape from, basically.
Yeah.
Except for Luffy and Sanji, they do escape from it, but at a cost, and they
Chiffon and Capone.
Beige.
Yeah, but it's what could you possibly do to stop a person like Big Mom? They failed to kill her. They tried beating her with kindness, and that didn't help.
Tried burying her.
Yeah, right. She just walked through the ground.
And I think because she's a person who can get whatever she wants, even if getting what she wants,
it did happen. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Even if getting what she wants is a fake version of that, her fantasy of a racial harmony in Total Land, that's totally manufactured to make her feel good, to make her feel like she's living this fantasy world that she created when she was a child. That can't be contested because the person who taught it to her is gone, and she will never be able to learn who that person actually was. And
yeah,
I mean, she has a lot of aspects of a spoiled brat about her.
And it's also, you can see the effect it's had on her family. Her family is completely dysfunctional.
Yeah. Oh, and I love And her being like this ultimate evil power, it really kind of helps the sub villains of like Katakuri and Pudding work because
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
Whatever journey we go on with them, it brings us back to we need to get these kids away from their mom at some point if we ever want them to have a happy ending.
And and Alex also mentioned just the fact that we have such colorful, fun characters in the Charlotte family too, and varied and crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt a lot more attachment to the Charlotte family members. I think because they were so zany and unique in their own ways. But I kind of do, and I think I do enjoy the story aspect that they're kind of, some of them are probably in denial that they're in a very abusive relationship with their mother. And some were wise enough to get out.
Well, I mean, most of them can't get out. Like this is one of the loose.
And actually, I mean, it makes you respect Lola so much more.
Yes,
right? Like she's the best, isn't she?
Yeah, yeah. But it's both. It's the amazing part about Big Mom as a parent is it's both abusive and neglectful. She is, mentally and perhaps she's mentally torturing all her children. Pudding at the very end of 902 is a really good example. But she's also 100% neglectful in that she doesn't really know what's going on. Montdore's, kind of the managerial figure in this. It's chaos under her. There's a hierarchy and a bureaucracy, but she doesn't know what the hell's going on. And she's completely, and that neglect, I think, comes out in a lot of the Charlotte family. And I think that's a really interesting dichotomy going on. Right. Steve, yeah, go.
Oh, I was
Sam, or whoever was.
I think like of all the loose threads that we're left with at the end here, I think the one that I'm saddest hasn't been expounded on is Lola, because there's kind of the implication that she's the only one who's ever been able to just kind of leave on her own terms, and like even the ones who marry out, like Chiffon or Praline, like there's definitely like a catch to it. Like Chiffon, Praline is like, she's with the people of Fishman Island, where like if they don't continue, supporting even remotely, if they don't continue supporting Big Mom has ways to kill them. And Praline even mentions that, like, anyone who's ever tried to leave Big Mom's domain has died, except for Lola, basically. And
that goes back to Elbaf, doesn't it? Because that was Lola's track. That's what she was supposed to do, according to Big Mom.
Yep. I'm really interested.
I still don't buy that. I still don't buy that.
No?
I still think that that's Pudding involved.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have a while to find out. I was excited to go to Elbaf to begin with before that whole backstory, but I am really excited to get to Elbaf. I love all of that stuff. I'm sure. Like, Oda is really into two cultures that I could tell, and that's Japan and, I guess, Viking culture, with the Vicky the Viking stuff, in his distant past. So I'm sure he's, chomping at the bit there. Steven, do you have any whole cake?
I said a lot more.
Yeah, let Sam go.
This is also the arc of just like some of my favorite side characters. This is the arc of Jinbei. This is the arc of Caesar Clown. This is the arc of Carrot. This is, and then
what about Caesar? Oh yeah,
I just said Caesar.
No, what about more Caesar? I'm not done with Caesar.
You can only hope.
Let's say.
And I think part of the sort of the semi-anti, because it's like both an anti-climax and a climax at the same time, which I think is really neat. But the part of the what I find interesting about the anti-climax is that it is kind of an echo, to me, it is an echo of Fishman Island, which I think is kind of the first part of, I think Fishman Island and Whole Cake Island kind of are along the same track there, where they're kind of dealing with these like really serious, like real world issues that in Fishman Island's case, they almost like present a solution, which is like just destroy Noah, destroy our relationship with like history and yada yada, and like that's how we're gonna like have the guts to kind of move on in the world. But they kind of don't have to do that because the Deus Ex Machina shows
I mean,
up.
And they also shouldn't do that. I mean, part of, you can't write the history clear, and I think that's maybe, I don't know if Fishman Island really coherently conveyed that, but
well, I think the argument is that may actually be what they have to do, but they didn't do it either because like Oda doesn't want to commit to saying something like that, or because
it's not
their fate is both tied to Big Mom and Whole Cake Island and tied to what's going to happen at the Reverie, which is immediately next.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it was to pass on new ideas to the next generation. This arc,
and that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, this arc was weird because the ideas kind of got passed along to Big Mom, but she's just terrible at implementing it, and kind of is demented in her implementation.
Yeah, I mean that's a recurring theme throughout the entire series. How we're kind of
products of our past.
We're products of our past, or we inherit will of others. We inherit the will of people we look up to, who we care about, and that can turn into good things, and that can turn into very, very bad things.
I mean, that's true. I was talking to someone recently about how a lot of as a Jewish person, a lot of the kind of neuroses that Jews typically have, I think, are generational inherited kind of will, in that we have been through a lot of shit in our past. And so that kind of behavior gets passed down from generation to generation. I'm sure, other ethnicities and other countries and other groups have that kind of stuff. And I think Oda does a really good job with that. I feel like we're getting kind of off the topic. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing with Fishman Island and Whole Cake Island is there are two situations where the Straw Hats' role in like fixing the world's problems is different than it is in almost any other arc, where in Fishman Island, it's almost like their role is almost too, if they were to like really destroy Noah or something, like that's just like too crazy for them to be a part of almost. And Whole Cake Island is the force that they're up against is actually much bigger than they are, much stronger than they are. And I think kind of what the ultimate poetry is going to be is that we have to see major shifts in just the entire way that world power works, which again, Reverie up next.
Steven, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. I was glad to hear all of the analysis that you guys were saying about kind of like the thematic sides of the arc, and I agree largely with a lot of those observations, and I value them as well, as a lens through which to view the arc. But for me, this is a very frustrating arc. My opinion of the arc has gone on kind of a roller coaster, and I know Zach said no ranking until the end, but just in terms of like an enthusiasm level that I was having, I would have said a couple months ago, maybe during the big chase sequence where it was like, okay, the climax of this arc is coming up, that this arc, I've always felt that the premise of the arc, that the foundation upon which Oda kind of created the story to get us into it of Sanji's extra backstory has been kind of a soft one, a bit of a weak premise upon which to do it. Like it feels like a bit of a retread, right? Or otherwise, like it makes sense for the character, but that I needed to see more. He needed to win me over to why this would be a convincing way to get us into this story. And like over the course of the arc, I felt like, okay, I maybe like this has been a very exciting arc. I think overall from week to week, it's an incredibly tense and exciting arc, like probably one of the best of any in that regard. And so I thought, like, right now for me, this is like maybe not top 5, like maybe 6 to 8, somewhere very high, like really, really good for an arc that we're just going through, that I'm not looking back on with 10 years of fond memories, like a lot of the classic stuff. And right at the end, like going from the Bad End musical into Jinbei staying behind, like completely flipped it over, where I was like, I think Dressrosa is better than this arc right now. Like, what is he doing? I can't believe that this is how this is all wrapping up. And I will say that last week's chapter 902 did a remarkably efficient job of tying together a lot of things that were really bothering me about it. So, again, kind of flip-flopping around, But I think from a manga like construction of a story arc, and in particular compared to the usual One Piece pattern, it's almost like an upside down version of the normal One Piece arc, which is that you start off with like a really, a new and mysterious and enticing setting, and you delve into this mystery, and then kind of around the middle of it, it gets to the point where he's like, okay, I've established all these obstacles, all these, side guys, villains. We have to beat all of them and, do this thing, get the MacGuffin. And, it starts to sag a little bit, at least on a weekly basis. And then at the end, it ties all back together. You have Luffy beating the villain. In the best arcs, he does it in this really iconic and thematically encapsulating way that, that you really, really cleverly ties together, like the, Luffy breaking through the thought process and the ideals of the villain in a masterstroke kind of thing. And those are like the best arc endings. And I feel like Whole Cake Island, like I said, I think the setting is fantastic. It's one of the best settings of One Piece, but the premise going into it was solid. Like I was not convinced that Sanji needed another layer of backstory. And then from there, he just built the tension so effectively throughout this arc, like leading up to the tea party and the wedding stuff. Like there's all this dread and this menace and, the anticipation and, Sanji finding out about the machinations at play when it's raining in the middle of the night, and like all this stuff where you're like, all this is building up to something really dramatic and really exciting. And the same thing after the wedding, with Big Mom chasing them, and just week after week, just by the end of your fingernails, like just hanging on, and people making sacrifices and all this stuff. And like he built it up so well. But I felt like at all the climactic moments, at all the moments where you're like, okay, all this has to do is just tie it together with a bow, like send us off with something really awesome happening or something really unforgettable. It felt like he just kind of kicked the can down the road. Like I remember being very vociferous on the Sanji and Pudding's wedding chapter, being like, what the hell happened in this chapter? Like, he was building up all this tension of all these people here who are plotting against each other, and all this stuff is going to go crazy. And then like when the actual, like the moment of the kiss and the ceremony and all that happened, it was like 2 pages in the middle of a chapter that just passed like it was, no big deal. And then everything, went on from there. And I kind of felt the same way about the conclusion of this arc. And I don't have a problem with where we are ending it, aside from maybe whatever is going on with Jinbei. I'm still kind of pissed about that. But as far as like having more of Big Mom's story to tell, perhaps in Elbaf, I'm just going to keep saying Elbaf because that seems like the most logical way that it will go. But having all that in the future is exciting, and I can totally see this is the half step. It's not the like Luffy can't. In this case, Luffy can't just go straight to Crocodile and beat him the first time as the first of the Emperor, and the first of the 4 emperors type of thing. It has to be tougher than that. And I get that, and I appreciate that storytelling. But I feel like even with that conclusion, he could have executed this arc in such a way that I would feel like so much more fulfilled about it, like of just dumping the cake on a beach and having them sail away while she just kind of scarfed it in the background. Like I could have done with, I don't know how it would have happened. I'm not the guy who puts together the story, but, having some moment where, okay, jokes aside, like Sanji comes up with the cake on his foot and kicks it into her mouth, or something where it's like, oh my God, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. That was awesome. I wanted that, and I didn't get that. Oh. And that's kind of a bummer. And it's the sort of thing that, especially with like a delayed or deferred payoff for the arc, is that One Piece, like I always think to myself like, oh, what happens if we get to the end of the series and all of the big mysteries are solved, like that it's like Lost, that it's like, oh, here's the answers, right, but they're really unsatisfying or something, or like that was kind of lame. My thinking is like, this is One Piece. This isn't Lost. It's not, each arc is not necessarily like some equation where there's one unknown variable at the end and you're like, okay, well, I have to find out at the end if this thing was good or not in order to plug it back into the old equation for this old arc to see if this arc was worth it or not. Like, that never happens in One Piece. Like, what's the worst that can happen if the Ancient Kingdom and all that stuff is like really flat or really boring? You're left with like 36 amazing arcs that have great adventures, that have, memorable moments and stuff. Like, that stuff is always going to be there. And this is the first case where I felt like he kind of held back and didn't really deliver on the fully visceral thrills of your typical One Piece arc. And even if Big Mom and Elbaf in that part 2 ends up being like so much cooler than you can imagine, to me that still doesn't make Whole Cake Island by itself necessarily a more satisfying arc. And so that's kind of the frustration that I have with it as the way it is constructed, which is that like so much of it is really cool and it just feels like there's an oddly subdued nature to it. And in some ways that's fitting, like it's not supposed to be the party at the end of the arc. It's supposed to be kind of downcast. But again, I still feel like there was a way he could have done that and also had more of a thrill ride at the end, like more of a Thriller Bark. Like, people rag on Thriller Bark as being, it seems to have a reputation as being kind of a second tier arc. But the one thing, look, that's just what people say, because it
was number 9 on our rankings.
Because it's not like, part of the big story, it's literally the arc where you get Brook. But anything you could say about, you cannot deny that Thriller Bark brings the freaking goods when it comes to like the climax. Like, it's such a thrilling, crazy ending to that. And obviously. And I wanted my cake and to eat it too. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it's a weird one. It's kind of a frustrating thing. And I'm sure my, thoughts on it will continue to evolve over time, but I'm still kind of grappling with it right now. That's where.
And Jinbei doesn't help.
Yeah, that doesn't
really doesn't help. Stephen, you had a perfect way. 2 words that you used to describe it. I don't know. Did you use those on the podcast? To describe that chapter where Jinbei wet fart. Wet fart.
Yes, we talked about that.
Okay.
We had an extensive discussion about the wet fart.
Oh, wet farting.
Yeah. It's not like, we needed. It's not like you need Jinbei. Jinbei joining wouldn't make the arc per se, but it would leave you with a feeling that something has been accomplished and these sacrifices have meant something over the past 2 years of real time. And losing that coming out of the arc just makes it feel like, well, what did we gain out of this? How did something change? I mean, Sanji is coming out of this arc exactly the same as he went into it. We know more about him, and that's nice. But I mean, what did we really gain from it? Which goes back to what Stephen was saying about, what does it mean that we have this flashback for him? What does that say?
I would defend Sanji. I think Sanji grew as a character in this arc, not substantially, but I think somewhat.
I think the best thing you could say about it is that we get this backstory where it's like, oh, here's the, his traumatic, even earlier childhood and all this, horrible stuff that his family did to him. And he kind of shows like throughout the arc that like, I am my own man. Like, you guys don't define me. I'm, this is who he's very confident in his persona. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't all of a sudden feel like, oh God, they're all right. They're right. I'm what am I doing cooking this food? Like, no, he doesn't have any self-doubt, which says a lot for Sanji. That's the Sanji you want to see, but it also means like, okay, but then what are we actually learning about, what is justifying this extra?
I still feel like his backstory, his new backstory conflicts a little bit with his Baratier backstory.
I think so.
I feel like in a way his character, he just acts differently. Like, why is he making such a stink about Cook's eating? eating unfinished meals. Like this was a dude whose meal got he cooked a meal for his mother and it fell in puddles and it looked like crap and he still like served it to her.
I like that dynamic because there's like we got this history behind why he wants to be a cook and why that's important to him, but he has to kind of like he has to get his real philosophies from Zeph.
I mean, for me, the biggest character growth with him is finding his self-worth, and finding his worth amongst the crew. Because the reason he leaves in the first place is just because it's not that he doubts Luffy, which is kind of the Usopp thing, I think, even. It's that he doubts himself, and he doesn't think he's worth it to the crew. You know, he's like, I got my own shit to deal with. I'm gonna do it. Bye, guys.
He even says when they fight, like you guys can find another cook.
Yeah,
I don't think he doubts himself. I gotta conflict with you there. Just because he was given at that first meeting with Beige, it was whispered in his ear that who was it? Zeph's head would be on a platter. So the entire time he's just been manipulated. I mean, he physically
I think it's
could
a
not
combination.
warp between places. Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing, and it was kind of forced at times, was he's so selfless. And I think his selflessness came from the fact that he didn't have self-worth. He treasured others over himself, which is great, but to him it was, I think what Oda was trying to convey at least, it shouldn't be to this extreme. You need to also value yourself as well as your compatriots. I think you kind of see that at the end. He's treasuring himself. He's treasuring Zeph. He's treasuring his background. He's treasuring what he's good at in baking that cake. He's like, oh, this is my shit here. I'm going to make an awesome cake. She's going to love it. And she did. So in that aspect, I think, you know,
I don't think
it wasn't perfect, but I think, there was some growth. Sam, sorry.
I don't think that the story does an adequate job justifying, like really giving us something new that we hadn't seen in like Usopp or Robin or Nami even. But kind of going back to kind of how this ended and like Jinbei leaving and us not really getting that full regular satisfaction. Part of the reason why I'm okay with that is I think that does tie into the kind of affirmation of who Sanji is and you know, like why we want him on the crew is that he's willing to do all this stuff, not because it's making a difference necessarily, but because that's just what he does, right? Like we get to the end and we are told like very firmly with that not 2-page spread, but that last page with Sanji and Zeph, like they did not do this for the happy ending. They did this because this is what they believe. This is what's important to them.
I mean,
philosophically.
It's a sad.
And there might still be more that sort of. There might be more to this. There might be like kind of a happy ending, kind of trickling out here. But by the time we reach that ending, I think it's important that we went on this whole adventure, that we made these sacrifices, that we saved Sanji's family, that we fed Big Mom the cake, not because a happy ending was guaranteed, but because that's who Sanji is.
I mean, I'll just end with one little thing, and then I want Ed to talk.
I don't know. At this point, I don't have that much to say. I've gotten I'm on the show every week. People have gotten my opinions, and we've gone on for quite a while.
Ed. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just wrap up by saying that I think we definitely had an anticlimactic ending, but I think the growth, and Jinbei excluded. So I really do agree with you, Stephen, on all the Jinbei points. Has been in the growth of the individual characters, both the protagonists and the antagonists, except for Big Mom, which I think is really interesting as well. I think Katakuri grew a lot as a character, for example. Pudding grew a lot as a character.
Actually, Brook was a disappointment.
Brook, yeah. I mean,
I was expecting more of him. I mean, he had some great moments, especially with the confronting Big Mom with the soul power, and but he didn't. He was acting so suspiciously at the beginning of the arc.
Yeah.
And it never really paid off.
Well, anyway.
Was he that suspicious, or was it just an ellipses?
The moon thing. The moon was
there were a few things. Yeah. There were. I mean, maybe that's still something yet to come. We'll find out.
I feel like it is.
I'm going to do a very quick thing before we round off. We had in 2015 rankings for every single arc. All I want you to do, I'm going to go around. You can make this one word. Say better or worse. I'm going to go up from the middle, since I assume it's better than middle for you guys? Is there anyone who thinks it's under the middle, lower tier ranking? Okay. So, gonna say an arc, just say better or worse, okay? Impel Down, Steven.
Better.
Steve.
Better.
Greg.
Better.
Ed.
Better.
Sam.
Better.
Okay, so it's at least in the top 10. Thriller Bark, Steven. Better or worse?
Better.
Steve.
Better.
Greg.
Worse.
Ed.
Just I don't know. There's a lot of promise. I'll go better for now.
Sam.
Better.
We have Artificially Inflated at number 8, Dressrosa. Better or worse? Steven.
Better.
Steve.
Oh, well, you guys are gonna be surprised when I say this. But come to think of it.
Oh my God, just say it.
Nothing has changed at all. Whole Cake Island is much better than Dressrosa.
Greg.
Way better.
Yeah, Ed. Greg, I don't have your original. I don't think you ever did rankings, so I don't know exactly. Ed.
Oh, better.
Sam.
Better.
Okay, so Greg has a confusing ranking right now. The Shaw Buddy Archipelago. Steven.
Ooh.
It's a hard comparison.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky comparison, but I think knowing what's above, I think this is where I'm going to say worse.
Okay, Steve.
Ooh.
Oh, which arc is this again? I cut out there.
Shaw Buddy Archipelago. Yeah, we are getting.
I'd say it's better.
Dressrosa. I mean, sorry, Greg. I'm reading the arc.
Better.
Ed.
There was so much more in Whole Cake Island.
Sam.
Better. Yeah.
I'm just gonna assume that was better. Sam.
Better.
All right, here we go. Top 6. Drum Island, Steven.
Worse.
Yeah, so you're cemented, I think, at number.
Yeah,
8.
I think everything above this, I'm going to say is better than
Steve.
Not better.
Okay, so you're cemented. I think it's going to be at number 7. Greg.
Worse.
Okay, so you're somewhere between like 7 and 9. Ed.
Worse. I didn't feel anything nearly like what I felt in Drum Island on this arc. I mean, I don't know if it's even possible anymore, but
Sam.
For me, it's better.
Okay, well, Sam, you're the only one left, and I know you think it's worse than the one I'm about to say, and that's Jaya Skypiea.
Right.
So it's in your top 5, top 6 around.
It's my number 3.
I mean, is there anyone who thinks it's worse than any of the following? Please let me know. Jaya Skypiea.
I think it's worse than Skype.
Well, together, Jaya Skypiea. Skype. It's definitely.
You mean?
No, it's better than
do
Skype.
we think it's better than any of the?
Yeah.
following?
Do you think it's better than what I'm about?
I think it's better than Microsoft's Skype.
Do you think it's better than Jaya Skypiea?
Much better than Skype, actually.
Marineford.
No.
No.
Alabasta.
Worse.
No.
Worse.
Arlong Park.
No.
Worse.
Water 7 Ennius Lobby.
No.
Okay.
Worse.
So I think
Yes.
so it's a top tier, top 10 certainly for all of us at this point, right after when it's still fresh. So that's gonna do it. We're gonna do a formal ranking and delve into this arc again in 2020. So please hold on to your seats for our Olympic size coverage. Until then, let's go into the next segment.
All right. Whew.
This is the Triple Anime Recap for episodes 832, 833, and 834. I'm your host Sam, and today with me we have, once again, our good friend, Ed.
Thank you. A lot of good material in here, especially in the second episode.
Yeah. Our first episode is 832, A Deadly Kiss. The mission to assassinate the Emperor kicks off. The title card begins at 4 minutes and 48 seconds. we open with the scene of Jinbei trying to wake Luffy up. After he had just assured Capone, "Oh, don't worry, I'll make sure to wake them up 10 minutes before." Having difficult time with Luffy specifically.
He still doesn't know Luffy that well.
Right. Just making a bunch of big goofy faces trying to wake him up, and they kind of get the idea that they'll have to wake him up with the scent of meat.
And it's interesting, like, this is actually a longer recap because it was almost 5 minutes in when this episode started.
Yeah. It's longer than the other 2 recaps, I think. Definitely longer than the most recent episode.
One of them was like 3:45.
Yeah. So we have Jinbei and Pudding coming in. They're being kind of brought to the altar. Sanji's still making his dumb face, and Pudding's still kind of being all lovey-dovey with him. But we're getting little hints of her like inner monologues with her 3 eyes and how angry she is, or not angry, but like how ready she is to blow his brains out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think some of that confetti is CGI, but in other scenes it might not be. It looked a little weird to me.
I wasn't
don't know
really
why.
paying attention. But there's
I'm
a little
sort of
bit,
looking at it as we go through.
There's a little bit where Pudding's boob squishes into Sanji's arm and he goes into overdrive.
Yeah. I mean, where are the bloodstains anyway?
Well, he changed outfits from the last time he bled.
Right.
He's thinking to himself like, no, stay rational. He knows the danger. He knows what he's capable of. So Chef Strusen comes out with his chefs, and they kind of sing a little song to bring out the cake. He seems to have a devil fruit for food, where he like sticks his sword into the ground, and the cake that they all work together baking comes right out, and that kind of serves as the altar where Sanji and Pudding gather. Yonji has a comment about wanting to marry Pudding, like, because it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind having a girl that pretty, but then his brothers are quick to remind him, you're an idiot.
Yeah, Yonji is, they do talk to him that way a lot.
Yeah. So back in Capone's body, the meat seems to work, and Luffy is waking up, and then there's kind of a lot of time dedicated to the crew kind of running through the mirror world, trying to make it to their portal in time, using Diesel to sort of transport them from mirror to mirror.
There's actually sort of a mirror, or not a mirror, but like a companion scene in the 3rd episode.
Right.
With Caesar and Brule.
Yeah. So we have Sanji and Pudding are being wed. We have their kind of big, goofy priest dude who, I was kind of surprised at how like really basic the kind of the wedding ceremony, the speech that the priest gives, the "till death do we part" kind of stuff.
I don't know if they have all the same, like they do Western style weddings in Japan. Some people,
I guess, yeah.
But I thought they would have had more of the ceremony. It seems very brief.
Yeah,
but I guess this is anime, you know.
Yep. And then Pudding is, we lift the veil. Pudding is revealing her eye. She's like, yes, get a load of this. And having read the manga, we all know what's next. Instead of Sanji has a brief moment where he's like, oh, yeah, but immediately he's like, oh, what a beautiful eye. And kind of everything goes quiet. Kind of the somber music picks up. Pudding she's got like the gun behind her back, and instead of pulling it out to shoot him, she kind of freezes. She's like, wait, what? What'd you say? And she's kind of like, she's starting to cry. We see the tears in all 3 of her eyes, and we kind of start to get her backstory, which is,
I wonder what the reaction of people who didn't read the manga is to this. Like, because I feel like this might be building up tension effectively throughout this episode of sort of like, what actually is going to happen when she pulls out the gun,
right?
Or people didn't see this coming. It's hard to go back in time and see.
Yeah, I always thought this would be this was going to be a good like chapter to like adapt and kind of flesh out some more. I don't know if I really got anything more out of the anime version than I did out of the manga version, but
no, they didn't really do anything.
Well,
artistically with it to make it unique. It was sort of a straightforward episode.
Yeah. Although we do get in her backstory when like we see all the kids picking on her, and we do get the added detail of like the kids would sometimes like cut her bangs with scissors so that she couldn't hide her eye after mom told her to grow her bangs out and hide her eye. That's kind of messed up. And obviously we got the scene of Pudding's retaliation with the knife. Like, I'm gonna stab you. Don't make fun of me. So she's kind of breaking down, crying. She's on her knees. She's like, "Screw you! I'm gonna kill you." Oh, earlier in the episode, I got this detail that I don't know if I made it into my notes, but I always like that. Before any of this happens, Katakuri does have that moment where you see he's Pudding on her knees, like crying, and he's like, "What are you doing, Pudding?"
I remember. I think, wasn't that a cliffhanger in the manga? Maybe.
No,
it wasn't. Because I remember that being a bigger deal. We talked about it a lot at the time.
So Pudding is she had failed to kill Sanji. Big Mom's like doing the cool like the neck thing. She's looking at the priest and being like, "Get him!" And Katakuri is already foreseeing into the future that Sanji's going to dodge the bullet. So he's like, "All right, I'm on top of this," and he flicks his jelly bean so fast, but Sanji dodges that one too, and it goes right into the priest's forehead.
No one seems to know what's going on here.
Yeah, I feel like that feels like the kind of thing Katakuri could have been more on top of. But then there's a rumbling, and then boom, Luffy bursts out of the cake. But it's like lots of Luffys, so we kind of have an idea of what he was up to in like the forest and what his big plan was in the past few episodes. In this version,
that's not going to stop them from showing us in the next episode. But
right, yeah. There's such a disparity between how not animated it is at the end of this episode and how much more animated it is at the beginning of the next episode. But the episode ends with Big Mom freaking out, like, "My cake!"
They'd be better off just sort of, people would just be better off skipping the end of this episode.
Yeah,
a little bit, because I mean, it's not like it's not recapped in the next episode. It's just you're right. It looks a lot better.
So the next episode is 833, Returning the Sake Cup. The manly Jinbei pays his debt. Title card is at 4 minutes and 3 seconds. So yeah, we get that flashback of kind of really explaining what actually just went on with all the dozens of Luffys. It's Capone and Luffy. Luffy basically asked Capone to sneak in a shard of mirror into the cake so that he break out of it in a big, crazy fashion. And he caught a bunch of animals in the forest so that he could use Brulee's powers to do that thing she did where she made people look like animals.
Yep. She
made animals.
Yeah.
She makes animals look like people. So it's a bunch of animals who look like Luffy. But in the big mess, we do see one Luffy clone that's not quite look like a Luffy.
That was and that's Brooke in the background in this episode is like he's Big News Morgans is talking at one point and he's sneaking around.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Mm-hmm. That's good. This is the best of the 3 episodes we watched this week.
Yeah, the cake is going all over the place. Sanji's grabbed Pudding and they're skywalking away. Pudding's still crying, and that's kind of the last that we see of them, so we don't really get a follow-up to what's going on with her yet.
There's also a lot of Morgans in this episode. Quite a lot of Morgans.
Yeah. Montdora's kind of having this realization of like, I knew I shouldn't have trusted Opera. And Big Mom is she's confronting some of her chefs who are like panicking and running away from her, and this is the kind of a demonstration of her soul pocus powers, which is going to come up later. And Morgans recognizes what this is, and he's kind of explaining to the audience what's going on, and basically she can pull the soul out of anybody who fears death. And I love that, like the weird like voice effect that they put on her voice, where as it kind of goes through the scene and she's taking like the chef's souls, like they put like this really deep voice filter on her, and it's like really cool sounding.
Yeah.
I like we got the rest of the Straw Hats kind of entering the scene through the mirror, and like Brule is like kind of trying to tip outside of the mirror, but like Jinbei catches her like, nuh-uh.
And it's also like, we're not going to animate what's inside this bag at all.
Right.
It's a mesh. They just can't see it through it.
Everyone's like insulting Caesar as they're all jumping out, and they're.
Well, she doesn't call him a loser. Like literally translate, she called him human trash, human garbage.
It's
very cruel.
There's kind of a big kind of sort of action sequence where like Big Mom is like stepping around and she's trying to dodge she's not trying to dodge, she's trying to step on the Luffy animals, and I really like the kind of like the stylish choice of like covering her in all these really heavy black shadows, except it kind of clashes with the really colorful black background. Like it's like pure daylight, but she's like covered in these really harsh shadows.
Well, I think it's partially from like the hat, but also like intended to make her contrast. It just makes her stand out more.
Right. She's like, Straw Hat, show yourself, and she's like trying to step on them all, and Capone's just like sitting back, like, haha, you dummy. He's not going to answer you. He's not going to show where the real one is. And then Luffy jumps out, I'm right here, and we get this really funny Capone face.
Mm-hmm. We got the we had that little flashback as well to back on Fishman Island.
Yes, yeah, that was cool. So Luffy goes right for the Mother Caramel picture, and Katakuri stops him. There's this his leg turns into this giant hockey-covered blob thing that grabs Luffy, and Luffy's stuck. And Katakuri explains to Big Mom, oh, he was going for the picture, and Big Mom's like, what? How would he know to do that?
So, well, someone's got to... Yeah, someone dropped a dime on that, and right. We know who it was. But, he's not going to take credit for it.
So Katakuri's about to, like, crash Luffy into the ground, but that's when Jinbei swoops in with a giant cup of tea, and he throws it into the air like a awesome fishman dude, and he grabs the tea like it's a... I don't know how to describe. It's like when, like, Hercules or someone or like Zeus and Hercules grabs, like, a lightning bolt.
Right.
And throws
it... Fantasia.
Throws it at the... Katakuri, and that lets Luffy get away, and that's when Jinbei explains that Katakuri has the mochi fruit. So you don't want to get stuck in that, but if you've got something like tea or water or something, you can loosen it up.
Yeah, it's a special kind of paramethea.
Yeah.
Which
which is an edit from the from the manga version.
Mm-hmm. Or the original manga version, at least. And we get Zeus and Prometheus here.
Yeah, some Zeus and Prometheus. Big News Morgans is kind of... Jinbei's making his big proclamation, like, I'm going to join the Straw Hat crew, and Big News Morgans is writing that down.
And this is big. He says, like, this is big news. And they translate big news as, like, this is going to be a headlines. Sometimes they just translate it as big news, but I wish they would just do that.
I think at first they were just going to go with the headline thing, but then by the last of these 3 episodes, they're just calling it big news.
I love his gimmick.
Yeah. So basically what this amounts to is Jinbei is sort of volunteering to face Mom's soul pocus power, because he wants to leave this crew like a man. And he kind of sits down. Big Mom's doing her thing. Nothing happens. She cannot pull a second of his soul out.
Like the way she's sort of astonished by that is I don't know. That was kind of powerful for me.
Yeah, there's a dawning realization on her face.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes this big speech. I'm a man who wants to be part of the future Pirate King's crew. I can't be intimidated by a mere emperor of the sea. And everyone's shocked. He's just a total badass. Everyone's excited. He puts his sake cup down. I'm leaving the Big Mom Pirates. Thank you for all your troubles. Just being way too polite about it. And then Mom is able to kind of laugh about it, like, Mama! So that makes us enemies now, and she's got Zeus and Prometheus, and she's about to go for Jinbei. Big explosion, big fire. Cast in the fire is
I think this is a good example of where this episode built tension, even though I knew what was happening.
Right.
But whereas last episode I didn't quite feel that as much.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a satisfying payoff at the end. So
right.
I appreciate that. It's a good construction here.
And the last scene of the episode is the weird out-of-place Luffy clone sneaking up on the Mother Caramel picture, just thwacking it with a hammer and breaking it, and then he looks at the camera like, yo.
Clearly it's broken disguise, but it's a great ending. It's one of the more shocking endings. Well, at least in canon, but it's harder to be shocked when it's not the first time through the material.
Episode 834. The mission failed. The Big Mom Pirates strike back. The title card is at 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So we kind of come back to Brook having smashed the picture. We hear the song like Three Towers playing.
Yep. I just love the contrast of the fire with him when he's breaking the picture. It's so ominous.
Yeah. Brook he tears his mask off, and the guests are like, oh, he peeled his face off, and he's like, no, this is how I really look. Big Mom is shocked to learn that that Soul King is alive, and he responds, "Yes, but I died once a long time ago. It wasn't when you thought I died."
I don't think she gets the joke.
So Mama goes dizzy when she sees the picture. We're not quite getting the reaction out of her that we expected quite yet. So most of the episode is she's like dizzied like a fighting game character.
It's like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons, where he doesn't get sick because he's got every illness at once.
So we got Luffy and Jinbei kind of fighting side by side. The animals are going crazy. Judge is angry that this wedding is being interrupted, and Perosporo's just like, no, just chill, we got this.
I just want to mention one of my favorite background characters was in this episode a lot, which is like, I guess he's like Judge Frog. He's kind of got like a judge's wig, but he's a frogman.
Right. Yeah.
He's all over the place in this episode. It's great.
We have a scene with Sanji and Pudding. They're kind of catching their breath after everything, and Pudding goes straight to trying to shoot him. She's like, "No, it's my job to kill you." And he keeps. It looks really cool how he dodges each of the bullets. Like they really animated that in a cool way.
Yeah. This was I think after. Because I really loved how the second episode ended, but I think this was the second best of the three we watched.
This is what I really am, Sanji. This is how I fooled so many people. And he's like, "Oh, and this is how you fooled yourself." And she's like, "Oh." And Daifuku shows up to interrupt their little talk, and he is very creepy because he gets like he rubs his belly in a provocative way, and the camera like shoots him from beneath as like his genie is like coming out of his belt, which is just a little.
You say rubbing his belly, but the way he's pointing at his dick when he's doing it, like it's that direction. He's pointing in a V.
Yeah, and you got Pudding like trying to appeal to him, like, "No, brother Daifuku, I got this." And they frame it. The camera's like right below him, so it's just such a. It's peak.
I just love how he's like, you were too weak to get it done. He smacks her out of the way, like. This is a cool family. This is everything we've known about the family.
So there's a big clash where the genie is coming out with his genie weapon and clashing with Sanji, who's kicking it. They really got a lot of mileage out of Sanji versus Daifuku in this episode, I think.
Mm-hmm. Like him overcoming Daifuku to try and rescue his family was kind of a big deal. I remember it being that big of a deal in the manga.
Right. We get a little bit of Caesar and Boulay. They're on their way to the scene, and Caesar's thinking to himself, like, "I'll show him. I'll do a really good job and show him I'm not a loser."
Flashback to them, them calling him a loser in his head. It's just, oh, Caesar. If it wasn't for all those things you did, you'd be sympathetic.
So Capone jumps on Luffy, and he's like pretending to like holding him down because it'll be suspicious if he's not fighting on behalf of the Big Mom Pirates.
Yes, the director of security.
Yeah. There's a lot of like just kind of fighting kind of the various generic guys of the family. It's hard to call them generic because they've got like really interesting, colorful designs, but like I don't know who most of these people are.
At least not yet.
I think we're getting an early peek at Jinbei's armament hockey. I don't know if that. I think we see that later in the manga.
Okay.
Pedro versus Oven. There's a little moment like that where Oven's just too hot.
Yeah, he takes the weapon right out of his hands.
Yeah. And Brook gets his head cut off, but we know how Brook works. But Luffy doesn't know how Brook works. So Brook's
I think he does. He just forgot, probably.
Well, Brook's head rolls over to Luffy and he's like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you could do that."
Where it's just left at the end of the episode. Like, there's no scene of Brook getting his head back yet. It's interesting if that carries over to the next episode.
So we have one of the bigger scenes of the episode is Judge caught in Perosporo's candy. Judge and the rest of the Vinsmokes, they're all caught, and Judge is realizing that his kids, they're not. Survival doesn't seem to be like a huge priority for them, or the fact that they've clearly lost this fight.
Yeah,
they're pretty chill about it. And,
they've lost their humanity, as Reiju points out.
Yeah,
and I was thinking about Judge's eyebrows here, where it's sort of like. I wonder if that's where his hair just begins. Like, it looks like it comes directly into his hair. Like, they're just that big eyebrows.
But we get to the point where Judge is crying. He's really humiliated. He's really sad that his dreams might not come true.
It's really pathetic, is what it is. I love that they gave him this wiener voice that he has.
Right.
I think I've been harping on that since the beginning, but the wiener voice for Judge is actually, I think, one of his best attributes in the anime.
And Perospero is just he's a real dick about everything.
It's actually interesting because I was just watching a very old movie with the guy who plays him. He also plays Kuma, but he was in a movie called Demon City Shinjuku in like 1990. And he was like playing a high school guy, and he's got this high-pitched voice, and he's kind of a whiny high school kid. And it's like, man, this guy's voice hasn't changed much in 30 years.
Wait, that's the guy who plays Perospero?
No, I was talking about Judge.
Oh, the guy who plays Judge plays Kuma?
Yeah, Hideyuki Hori. Yeah.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah. He's also Captain Ginyu, and as I said, he was in Demon City Shinjuku, a movie I watched last week.
And to rub it in, Big News Morgan's, he's very up in Judge's face as he's taking pictures, put in the newspapers.
It's almost like licking. Perospero is almost like licking his tears, like Scott Tenorman on South Park. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got the tongue for it. So on the Luffy and Capone side, Katakuri is arriving, and he's like very slowly walking over to him, and Capone's like, Katakuri's looking pale, and he announces to the rest of the alliance, get your invisible Symphonia systems ready.
Yeah, because it's totally going to happen soon. She's going to totally start screaming.
And Katakuri is it seems like he gets what's going on with Capone, but he's trying to give him orders like shoot Straw Hat to death now, and Capone refuses.
One last chance,
Yep, Capone refuses. Luffy grabs the picture because Brooke was telling him earlier that, hey, by the way, I think the reason why Big Mom has not screamed yet is because she's so confused by everything that's going around. So we gotta double down on the picture thing and remind her what's up. So Luffy's on his way to do that. Capone is kind of smack talking Katakuri like, even if we can't see it, we all have the right to change the future, which I always remember being like a really cool stinger for an episode. And and like you said earlier, there's a scene where Sanji just like totally nails Daifuku's genie, and he's off to go save his family, quote unquote save. To be continued. Any general thoughts on these episodes, Ed?
I think both the second and the third episodes had pretty effective endings. Overall, I don't know. I don't think the tension really worked in the first episode, so it was sort of a straightforward, kind of boring episode. But the second two really picked it up, and especially like the ending of the second episode with Brooke backlit by those flames breaking the picture. That was really well set up moment. And episode 3 was pretty good as well. So I've come to a place with the One Piece anime where I'm happy watching it most weeks. So I've got my expectations are calibrated.
Well, fun fact: these 3 episodes are also where the anime seems to have gotten back on track with 1 chapter per episode pacing.
Okay.
Who knows how long that will last, but I mean, it helps that the arc's over in the manga now, so that they can prepare for like filler.
It also helps that we just had like 2 weeks off in the past month, I think.
Yeah,
or like the last 6 weeks.
And I mostly agree with you. Like, I think that the first episode was definitely weak as an adaptation. I have kind of a soft spot in my heart for it from a story. Well, because
it's got in that putting Sanji materials is decent. But
the second of these 3 episodes, the Jinbei one, I like the highlights of it. It's disappointing to me because, like, to me, part of the strength of that material is that it's so dense. Like, there's actually like a lot going on in that one episode / chapter, but like because they're kind of going for the tension, it kind of ends up feeling more empty rather than like crazy and chaotic and dense. And then the third episode I thought was actually surprisingly good because like I don't remember most of these like fights and stuff from the manga version. And I think there's a lot that they've embellished for the anime that I think has been effective. Like the action looks surprisingly good. Like I think this is the episode that has the best animation in it of these 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really pretty good.
I'm excited for Luffy versus Katakuri. They were doing some pretty interesting stuff with that.
Yeah. Is that it? Have anything else you want to say?
No. Yeah, let's move on to the next segment.
All right, let's move it.
And pray tonight. Let's gaze at the moon and bathe. Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolves. Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming.
This has been episode 517, turning out to be one of our longer episodes of the year for April 30th. We had our triple anime recap. We had our Whole Cake Island review, and we had our Werewolf Bar Mitzvah back with our Color Walk 8 Wolf discussion. Fun time. Really enjoyed this episode, guys, especially for an off week. Guys, don't miss our off week podcast episodes. Tell your friends about the One Piece podcast. And support us on Patreon at patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. How could the good people out there contact you guys? Sam?
They can find me on Twitter at Lucky Chainsaw. They can find me on the One Piece Podcast every week doing the anime recaps. And they can find me on AnimeNewsNetwork.com doing the daily streaming reviews for One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Black Clover.
Steven?
Yes, I may be found on Twitter at Translatosaurus.
Greg?
You can find me at Twitter at Ochimusha108. That's OCHIMUSHA 108. And you can find me at onepiece.com. That's one-piece.com/special/Greg.
Steve?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Steve Yurko, all one word. That's the username.
And Ed, how could the good people out there contact us?
Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. One Piece. Podcast can be found at onepiecepodcast.com, twitter.com, youtube.com, and facebook.com/One Piece Podcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Leave us some piece together at reddit.com/r/One Piece Podcast. Please support us on Patreon. Subscribe on Google Play, SoundCloud, or subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Or call us on our phone number, Zach.
That phone number is 347-497-MAGI. That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Right.
With your questions, comments, and theories. We're going to do a very quick quiz this week, but I want to do one because...
Really?
Yeah, this one's going to be fun. I promise.
Okay.
So, Greg...
Like you said the other time.
And that was fun. It just took 20 minutes.
It was.
So, Greg, and for those new listeners, we are doing quizzes at the end. But this one's going to be a little different. We did back, as I mentioned earlier, in 2015, ARC rankings. I'm going to ask each of you to guess what your least favorite ARC was. Okay? For Greg, I'm going to give you a random person on our crew. Since you didn't do one. So
give him Joey. Give him Joey.
I was going to give him Jammer, but we'll get there. So Ed, let's start with you. What was your least favorite arc? If you get it, you get a point. If not, you don't.
The Kuro arc.
No. Now, if anyone else here could guess it, they get 2 points. Steven, I'll give you first shot.
Of mine or Ed's?
No, Ed's. You get 2 points if you get Ed's.
Oh God. I don't know. Buggy.
Steve.
Oh, am I guessing Ed's?
Yeah. Steven hasn't gotten it. So.
I feel like it was something I regretted.
Steve.
And he just guessed Buggy. He said no.
It's not Buggy. It's not Kuro.
Romance Dawn.
Greg.
Shabondi?
What? No, Shabadi was number 6 for Ed. Sam.
Not Fire Crouch.
Yeah, he's not Fire Crouch.
What was Ed's?
Oh, okay.
Ed's least favorite, since Ed couldn't get his own.
Guessing not a piece.
Okay. So, guess for real, quick.
Oh my God, I don't know. Little Garden.
Okay, the answer was Fishman Island. No one gets a point.
Oh.
Steve, what was your least favorite arc?
I'm gonna say Romance Dawn.
Perfect. Steve gets a point.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the least amount of characters.
Steven, what was your least favorite arc?
Okay. I feel like I know the safe answer for me, but I may have also had like a protest vote where I thought something shouldn't have been an arc at all, and I voted it last on purpose to get back at Zach. I'm gonna guess Kuro.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Sam, what was your least favorite arc?
Okay, so there's two that it might be.
And I'm just gonna say you were wrong.
Is it Little Garden?
Yeah. Okay. Greg, pick a person. Who do you want to guess the least favorite arc from?
Jammer.
Okay. What do you think his least favorite arc was?
I'll say, oh wait, he's really positive. So he might see, I'm so biased. I'm applying my thoughts to these. I'll say Fishman Island, but I'm sure he loved it.
You're right.
Yes!
Wow.
All right, so
What was yours, Zach?
So we have a tie between Steve, Steven, Sam, and Greg. So the four of you have to guess.
It's just more like the next
guess my least favorite arc.
Oh boy,
Steve.
God, I gotta go first.
Yeah.
Kuro arc.
Nope. Steven.
It has to be Impel Down because there's no moons in it.
Funniest answer you've ever
It's all
given,
underground.
but no.
Yeah.
Greg.
Jeez. This is 2015,
2015.
Zach?
2015 Zach, who
2015 Zach. I think
who was not
2015
as
Zach
smart
was
as
back.
2018
I
Zach.
think you were woke to Fishman Island by then. So, God, I'm gonna say.
Somewhat.
I don't think he was
I'm gonna
woke
say.
yet.
Oh, damn it! Whiskey Peak.
No, I have Whiskey Peak way too high. My answer was Buggy, which I would put higher.
I was gonna say
today.
that, and I didn't get to.
No, because Sam, you really? Okay, fine. I'll give Sam the win. Whatever. I don't care. This game's not real. Take some donuts.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming on the show. Next week, chapter 903, the transition begins. I am sure it will be a lot of fun. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And my name is Steve.
We'll see you then, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
I got a quiz for you, Zach.
Oh no. Yes.
On the second episode titled "Stab Through the Heart," what was the original title that was much, much better that you did not pick?